Go for it.
All right, now can everyone hear me? Good. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law, section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conduct its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Recusals from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you, and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located at the bottom of the WebEx screen. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through proper channels have been considered. We've also received emails from those who provided written comment on a particular matter. Proper channels for comments are listed below. Communication with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the Wednesday 12 p.m. deadline are collected by city planning staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting. Proper channels for public comments include sending an email to the city planning at clevelandohio.gov address, calling or leaving a message at 216-664-2210, sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall, 601 Lakeside Avenue. A little bit more about the proceedings and how we'll work through the agenda. So welcome to those of you who are new to Planning Commission. The chair will call each agenda item, then each applicant will be invited to proceed with their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation is concluded, the chair will ask planning staff to summarize design review committee recommendations and any public comments received. The deadline for public comments is noon on the Wednesday prior to any regularly scheduled city planning meeting and will be read into the record. Any comments received by the deadline are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting through Dropbox. Staff will also identify members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. Chair will then request a recommendation from staff if applicable. The commission will then begin deliberations and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called.
All right. Michael, can you call the roll?
Anthony.
Present.
Luker. Curry.
Present.
McCray Scott.
Present.
McKnight.
Present.
Sargent. Slight. Present.
Thank you. Actually, Drew is going to be in a few minutes, so I don't know if he won't participate in the first item, but he should be coming shortly. The first item on the agenda is a rezoning. Actually, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which was the February 16th meeting. I have a copy of the minutes. We've had them in advance. If there are any questions or comments or motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting as they are shown.
Second. Motion and a second. Call the roll. Okay.
Anthony.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Abstain.
McKnight.
Yes.
Slight. Abstain.
Motion carries. So first item is a zoning matter, which is a public hearing. So if you're here to speak to this first matter, I'm going to read the format for zoning matters or public hearings. First, we will hear a presentation by staff on the proposed rezoning, and the commission can ask any specific questions about the matter, not discussion, but questions about the particular rezoning. Second, we will hear from sponsor of the legislation. So this could be the councilperson or the architect or the applicant. And then we will open it up to public comment. Since it's a public hearing, we'll take testimony from the public. First, I will ask for those in favor of the zoning change, proponents, to speak. I'll ask that you either, if you're online, raise your hand and I'll call on you in order. If you're here to speak, I will call on you. And please give your name and your address if you are, or your organization, or if you're an adjacent property owner. And then, and I'll take everyone who's in favor of the zoning change or has a question if you are not in favor or against. And then we'll take any comments from those opposed to the zoning change. I'll ask that if you're here, you fill in the sign-in sheet, and also ask that you address the chair directly with your comments as you speak. We'll keep the public comment for each matter to 2 minutes or less, so we can get through the agenda. It's a long agenda today. So I will manage the public comment portion. And the first item that is for zoning is an unnumbered zoning, changing the use area height districts of parcels of land north of Lorraine Avenue between West 45th Street and West 44th Street. Subjecting the title, the site development boundary section 33.02 of the zoning code. And as I said, Xavier will be presenting this one. I'd also like to point out, since he arrived, that Drew is here, and he will, since we haven't started the matter, he will be participating in this rezoning. So take it away.
Hello, my name is Xavier Bay, zoning planner and city planning. Forgive me if there's a delay. There's a delay on this screen, so just keep that in mind. You already heard the proposal. So the purpose of this rezoning is to correct the split zoning issue that would happen when these parcels are consolidated, to allow the proposed development to move forward and approved by Landmarks Commission, to promote the diversity of housing typologies, which is in alignment with our Connected Cleveland 2020 plan, and to support transit and alternative mobility choices. So we do have councilman's approval for this site-specific map change. And so here's the current zoning. You can see there's two-family residential, local retail, but you've got fronting Lorraine Avenue and a pedestrian retail overlay fronting Lorraine Avenue as well. And so here's a snippet of the future land use map that was from the Connecting Cleveland 2020 plan. You can see the public mixed use infill development along Lorraine Avenue. It's also brings forth, a more walkable, bikeable. This also contributes by the project citing being walkable. So here's the proposed zoning. We're calling for limited retail business, a G2, and a 3-foot specific setback. And so the specific setback really assures that this infill development is contextual to the neighborhood. And the limited retail allows for this project to move forward as mixed-use residential. Here's the existing conditions. You can see where the site is right in between an auto repair shop and gas station between West 44th and 45th Street. Here's some of the existing existing conditions. You can see the top left photo shows you where the infill development's going in here next to a residential and gas station. Here's some of the retail and gas station along Lorraine Avenue. And you also see the automotive shop I mentioned here. That white building there, that structure is going to be demolished as part of this infill development, just currently vacant. And here you can see along 45th Street, the top left photo shows you the, it's like that. So it's a parking lot, which is vacant, which is also where the infill development is coming in. And that other picture shows you some of the residential concepts across the street. And so, the site plan here is calling for 87 units, 400 square feet of retail. And so it's really, here's some of the elevations here that were approved by landmarks. 55 feet is the height there. You can't see from the seat. Elevation along Marine Avenue. Here's some of the renderings at the intersections of Marine 44 on the top, and then Marine 45 at the bottom. And so that's the proposed zoning. This rezoning matches what was approved through Landmarks Commission. Again, it's limited retail G2, so it's really allows for them to move forward with their density proposed and the height of 55 feet. As I mentioned, the 3-foot setback is there because, as you can see, those other orange highlights are existing setbacks. So just making sure that this infill development is contextual neighborhood. It's going to bring mixed uses here to the neighborhood, transit-oriented development as well as Marine Avenue has a high frequency line that connects over to transit stop, rail stops. And that concludes my presentation. We have Dan Musson here from Landmarks. If you have any questions for Dan, I believe the architects are also present online.
Yeah, you showed it. So who is would be the sponsor testimony? Is someone going to speak on?
Up here with it.
Yes.
I'm here, how are you?
Okay, state your name and address and for the record.
Sure, Chad Curtis, with Mackley Street, I live at 3102 Vine Court. You want me to report?
Yes, if you can come to either side. And I don't know if you have any slides you want up or you just want to talk.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Um,
Talk about the project. So this project has been through the community process for quite a while. We've gone through significant revisions to the plans. We initially started as a large single building. I've done several different buildings, new construction and renovations throughout the neighborhood. One which kind of replicates this is 4815 Franklin. We have a 3-story walk-up building. That's very similar to what you see in this slide next to the gas station and what we're proposing on the 45th side. That project went through a similar process, similar from a 2-family to a multi-family rezoning. And, honestly, if you go down the street right now and you look at it, it blends very seamlessly next to multi-family houses, single families. This building in the middle is very appropriate, I feel, for the street. If you go up and down the Lorraine, this fits into the height context, the density. We did a building at 41st in Lorraine as well, 41 West. It's been very successful, similar parking ratio to apartments. We basically are full right now. We're seeing a huge impact with the retail over there. It's really good for the neighborhood, the walkability. My office is also at 3500 Lorraine, so I'm up and down the street all day, every day, practically. And we're very excited. We have another project further down that we're moving forward with as well.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think we're going to ask any questions yet. I'm not sure if there are any technical questions.
Madam Chair, will this come back to us for the actual site or?
I don't believe so because it's in the landmarks district and it has already been approved by landmarks.
So
Okay.
it was approved by Landmarks Commission late fall, the
Gotcha.
final approval.
Thank you.
And for the record, anything going to the landmarks district doesn't come to us through design review.
Few questions, Dan.
Madam Chairman, could folks speak louder with the air conditioning?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Question for Xavier. The parcels fronting Lorraine now have the local retail zoning, which allows for multifamily development. So I presume, is it because the property extends further north than the current property line? And is it roughly about where the facade changes color on that rendering that we just had on the previous slide? I guess but without, in the absence of seeing a site plan that was approved by landmarks, I'm trying to get a sense of like what the project looks like from an aerial look at that. That's helpful.
To answer your question, Greg, parcels extending back are two-family residential. See, I think this really helps kind of outline the variation of the zoning. Lots are all going to be consolidated. The issue is going to occur the most restrictive zoning taking precedence.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no other technical questions, we're going to open it up for public comment. So as I said, this is a public hearing. So first we'll take any comments from any proponents. So those in favor of the zoning change, if you're online, just use the raise hand feature. If you're here to speak to this matter, just let me know. If you are here, anyone opposed to the zoning change or has questions, you could raise your hand. Okay, so I'm going to go in order, and I don't know, we'll start with you, and we'll just go straight through. So please, you can stand or sit, and you can go back to your seat as well, and just state your name, address, and
I'll just stand.
Okay, that's fine.
Hi, my name is Ann Gill. I live at 1807 West 44th. My comments on this are, numerous comments. One, it is too intense of a project for that area. It will cause considerable increase in density. It'll cause increased traffic, increased, I think there's something about something like a cutout where people have to go when they go to 45th now. Now people have to wait to make a left-hand turn. I mean, that just backs up traffic for people living up that street. And that's ridiculous. I don't like the idea. Not only do I don't like, but where is, Cleveland has an initiative about increasing the canopy of the city. And I don't see anywhere where there's any type of landscaping, planting trees. You have a building that has come right up to the sidewalk. How does that intense footprint of a building balance against the need for a canopy in this city with trees? The building is too tall. It's too intense of a population in the area. The 87 units with 47 parking spaces, all these sort of defaults to, well, nobody has a car anymore. Well, yeah, they have a car, and everybody that lives with them probably has a car. Unless these are people who don't have cars, their friends don't have cars, and anybody's stopping over. It will use up the art. This is an area where they have businesses going up and down the rain that need parking. Now everybody's gonna have to park, 5 blocks from when they want to go to one of these establishments. I think for numerous reasons, I think it's a building that is not in keeping with the 19th century architecture. Not that I want dirt roads and that kind of thing, but it's not in keeping with the neighborhood at all. This area is an opportunity to preserve the architecture and the history of that neighborhood. And I don't know if it's 4 or 5 conglomeration building just plopped down there, obviously using just like everything's just packed in there to maximize the dollar output of it is not in keeping with the neighborhood. Walkability. I don't see these people walking out. What they're going to do? Take a bus down to 25th and then take the rapid. I don't see them as doing that. I think it's just going to cause a heavy increase in traffic, and I would much better like to see affordable housing and or private homes of what it was originally, that is the original zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, yes, you can come up and please state your name and address.
My name is Joseph Gaultner. I live at 2029 West 45th Street. Thank you for the opportunity to present these comments. On February 28th this week, the planning director wrote the following in regards to this agenda item. We've done a parking study for the area, and there's significant on-street parking available. We will also be working simultaneously on district parking solutions. It's clear then the planning director understands that there's a parking problem. Why else would we be looking at solutions? This building will create a parking deficit of 30 to 40 cars. I believe that a parking study was done, but I'm guessing it did not include someone standing at West 45th and Lorraine at 8 o'clock on a Friday night. For if they had done that, they would have seen cars, cars, cars. with little to no available parking for this development. The second issue I'd like to speak to very briefly is the public perception of this matter coming for the zoning change. I understand, and similar or comments from the planning director, that this project is not subject or allowable for approval through the Board of Zoning Appeals. No matter how many variances were granted for parking, for height, for setback, for any of the factors that you all know better than I, it wouldn't be eligible. I would think that alone, the severity of change required here, should give this board pause. Lastly, I'd speak further to the perception of this hearing being held today. Next week on March 4th, the Board of Zoning Appeals, there's an agenda item to avoid having a 6-foot landscaping strip in front of a parking lot. One might think that that is a less significant issue than that which is before you today. However, residents and adjoining property owners would have gotten written public notice, would have had about 2 weeks to either plan to attend or to submit comments. My understanding that today's agenda item came out on the agenda last Friday and was either available to the public on Friday or Monday of this week, with only 3 days to submit comments. I specifically request that you defer your decision on this item today, at least until your next meeting, to give additional time for the public to submit comments and or testimony. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Alan Mancuso. I am a civil servant living on West 45th Street, 2037, and I love working for the city. I live directly in the neighborhood. I do want to clear up. Chad does not live directly in the neighborhood where this is being built. He's north of Franklin. So just to be clear, he's not in the immediate community that is directly affected. Just to clear it. This project will increase traffic. People use West 45th Street. South of Lorraine is a cut through to get to 90. There's no traffic light. There's already been at least one person who was killed in an accident at that intersection. There are several accidents at that intersection. The exit for this new project that is being built will exit out onto 44th Street. And if someone has to go east on Lorraine, they have to cut over 3 lanes of traffic, and that's already busy. I look at this piece of cloth as fabric, right? Fabric of our community. And this project is tearing at it. It has caused a lot of division, a lot of divisiveness. I respectfully ask you to defer at the very least to the next meeting so there's more time for public comment. I also ask that you consider that people who have been in support of this project do not necessarily live in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, let alone the community on the near west side. I have 4 children that live on this street. There are several other families who have young children. The traffic will be real busy, and on top of that, Urban Community School is right there, where there's several students. I beg you, as a parent, if you are, as an aunt or an uncle, to please consider not allowing this project to go forward as it exists. As it exists, to be clear. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you all being here.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Sattler. I live at 2021 West 45th Street, located within 200 feet of the parcels proposed for rezoning. I have sight lines from my backyard to the southern elevation of the proposed 5-story building. Along with our 2 young children, my husband and I are active in the neighborhood. We utilize the 45th Lorraine intersection, both as pedestrians and with our vehicles on a daily basis. This project is going to have a significant impact on our daily lives in the Ohio City community. The lots proposed for rezoning are a combination of 2-family residential and commercial uses. The bulk of the land is 2-family residential currently. My overall objection is simple. No developer in the city of Cleveland should be permitted to build a 5-story building in a residential neighborhood. Bottom line. Those parcels are currently zoned appropriately. The parcel with access to Lorraine can accommodate a taller building for retail purposes. The parcels in the 2-family residential allow for buildings that are 35 feet tall. This request is being made because the developer wants to build a 5-story building on property zoned for 2-family. I would note the Councilman Sleeve noted that the parcel on Lorraine can allow for 5 stories. It is going back deep into the residential neighborhood. That's the problem. 5 stories next to a 2-story home, 5-story, like this building, I live 200 feet across the street. There are 3 buildings allegedly in front of me, but one of them is a 1-story, one is a parking lot. They will see into my backyard where my young children are running around and playing. It's an absolute invasion of privacy. That being said, there are significant safety issues regarding this building and this development. The density for this block, it's a very small block, it's a very crowded intersection already. Sorry. Lorraine from West 42nd past West 65th has been identified in the city's Vision Zero plan as one of the 25 high crash segments. More specifically, the intersections of West 45th and Lorraine and 44th and Lorraine have been identified in the Ohio City Mobility Study as among the most dangerous intersections in the whole neighborhood for car crashes, for cars, bicycles, and pedestrians. There was a fatal crash at 45 in Lorraine, which was already noted, along with frequent non-injury causing crashes. Just yesterday, a car plowed into the building at 4461 and destroyed the entire first floor. It's like that building is gone now because a car plowed into it. It's directly across the street from this. Until the city is able to address these safety issues with the traffic, it's not smart to approve this additional density. Even if the residents of 45 West are utilizing public transportation, they start and they end their journey as pedestrians. This chunk of Lorraine is not safe for pedestrians, and the city, we've talked about this. I emailed Councilman McCormick on like a weekly basis about safety issues, and still nothing is getting done. And to approve this project, to rezone it, to allow this increase in density would be unwise and unhealthy for the city of Cleveland. Thank you for the opportunity to share this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Greg Sattler, Meg's husband, also at 2021 West 45th Street. I'm opposed to this project being developed as is. This is being a commercial development in a residential area. There are a total of 305 feet of street footage of this project. 74 feet is on Lorraine Avenue. The vast bulk is on West 45th and West 44th in residential neighborhoods. 64% of the land is currently zoned for 2-family residential. Only 37% is zoned for the local retail. It should remain that way. You know, if the developer can't make his project fit in the existing zoning with family to fit in the neighborhood, he should change his development. The neighborhood should not have to change for him. I also want to address a comment that the developer made. He said 41 West is a similar height building. That is true, but also that building is directly next to and adjoining other buildings that are the same height. This building will be the only building in that height in this block. It'll stand out like a sore thumb and allow views into all the neighboring properties around the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes. Or online too. Please raise your hand if you're online. Good morning. You can stand or sit, whatever is more comfortable for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Good morning.
My name is Whitney Anderson. I live at 1976 West 44th. My home was in these photos. It was the dark colored house that you see in very close proximity. There's just one house between myself and the development. I've been following this project for a year now, and it does not merit rezoning for many reasons. The scale of the 5-story building has not been well received by the community, and has struggled to even make it in front of the Planning Commission today. I want to be clear that I'm not concerned with the portion of this project on Lorraine, which comprises very little of the site plan. The northern boundary, the largest portion of the project, is 100% zoned two-family residential. It's what abuts my home and backyard and is what the community has been begging to be modified for a year now. I also want to be clear, I don't care about property values. I'm not here to comment on design, although Director Wang said it best, that from Lorraine, it looks like a mohawk sandwiched between two small one-story buildings. I'm in favor of and welcome infill on the site and support gentle density increases, similar to what the Planning Department has outlined in their new form-based code. I question why the Planning Department has created a code that upzones two-family parcels to four-family parcels without allowing for an increase in stories or building height, and yet supports this development that exceeds those increases by more than double. Ohio City Design Review also voted to disapprove this project at 4 stories. Only after that decision did the developer shift some of the units from the side street to the center building, increasing the height and stories of the project along the northern boundary. This is antithetical to the consistent requests residents have made to bring the project down as it enters the residential area. I disagree with Councilman McCormick that this change responds directly to residents' concerns. When presented to Landmarks, Director Wang stated a condition to consider stepping down the project as it enters the residential district. I later discovered that there is no requirement for the developer to actually prove they consider this change to receive the certificate of appropriateness. And if the six two-family parcels are appropriate for a 5-story apartment complex, I'm curious why a request for a permanent land use rezoning wasn't made today. There's just a few figures that I want to go over. First, this straddles 2 block clubs. One I'm officially a part of on West 44th. The developer had staff members present this in February of 2023, a year ago. It was 84 units at the time and on a smaller site plan. And this response was skeptical at best. It then went 9 times to Ohio City Design Review and Landmarks, where the project grew in either density or height at every major change. March 6th, Ohio City Design Review went from 84 to 92 units. There were 6 comments, all opposed. April 6th, back to Ohio City Design Review, increased further to 101 units, 7 comments, all opposed. April 13th, Landmarks Conceptual Review, 25 comments, 80% opposed. May 4th, Ohio City Design Review for a final vote. I don't have accurate comment numbers because at the time, the developer sent a bribe letter to their all of their residents, regardless of location or proximity to the project, saying that if they write a letter of support or sign a petition, they will receive an entry into raffles, free party with free food and drinks. Essentially, the project was tabled because there were insufficient changes. June 15th, back to Ohio City Design Review for a final vote. 36 comments, 83% opposed. The project was disapproved. July 27th, there was a new concept at Landmarks, similar to the current design. 16 comments, 94% opposed. September 21st, back to Ohio City Design Review. The building has now increased to 5 stories on the northern elevation, where it's 2-family residential. 23 comments, I don't have the exact percentage, but majority opposed. Ohio City Design Review for a final vote on October 19th. 53 comments, 79% opposed, and it passed by 1 vote. October 26th, Landmarks for a final vote. 42 comments, 81% opposed. With such a consistent amount of negative feedback, it's hard to understand how this project has made it to the Planning Commission today with the councilman's support. I understand the city's agenda to increase density and aid development, but both of those things can be achieved while simultaneously respecting residents, maintaining integrity.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're at 4 minutes and almost 50 seconds, so wrap it up. I'll let you finish.
I'm just going to say that I don't think this development is the success story that warrants a special treatment or what a lot are considered unethical spot zoning. I just really fear that the passage of this is a foregone conclusion and that all of our efforts have been for nothing. So I'm hoping that I'm wrong and that this commission doesn't approve this rezoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just trying to make sure there's time for everyone and online. So anybody else here who'd like to speak to this matter who is opposed? Are there any hands raised? Do you see? I don't see any that I can see. You want to check real quick, but I don't see any.
Also note for the record, we did receive one email in support from someone who lives on 44th Street. As a neighbor of cluster urban planning, this is supported by her. We also received 4 letters against, so citing too much density, inappropriate neighboring to family residential, negative impact on the community and such on the precedent. Ohio City 8 also sent over a package of comments, which was not uploaded as Dropbox I think after Wednesday, but if anyone has questions, certainly there's.
Madam Chair, we can't hear the planning.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just summarize. We received 1 letter in support, 4 opposed, and Ohio City 8 also sent a package of comments for this project.
Thank you. So we are going to close the public portion of the meeting. We've closed the public portion of the meeting. I've given everyone a chance to speak. We are going to now ask that commission members who have any questions, clarifications to ask of the staff or developer, or anyone, or any comments.
A question for staff. I hear that concern is traffic in the 45th and Lorraine intersection, and I know the Midway is a plan which includes kind of a redoing of Lorraine. Is there a future like signalization plan for 45th, or is there a traffic analysis that kind of is tied to that larger project? Because it does seem like a bit of an elephant, and it is tough to turn left off of West 45th. I will concede that, but I would be surprised if there hasn't been a recognition of that at City Hall already and a plan.
Yeah, we've taken that feedback, and as we all know, the Lorraine Midway is under design right now and community engagement. And so all those comments will be fed into the Lorraine Midway, and the Lorraine Midway itself will give the road a diet so that there will be less speeding cars, at least on Lorraine. For 45th, we'll be looking into that. It is a residential street. We'll compare it against our Division 0 data to ensure that the comments reflect the high crash network, and we're also seeking to get much more Vision 0 implementation out the door.
For what it's worth, my hunch is that intersection needs a signal, especially if it's going to be road dieted and constricted and make it that much harder to turn.
Yeah, I can't speak to that right now because it's still.
Sure.
Can we go back to the site plan?
Can you go back to the site plan?
We can also answer any questions about the site plan, specifically the circulation, and maybe I can just jump in and make some comments. So the way that the site plan is circulated is there is a one-way access drive to the north of the site. That is a 20-foot buffer. And there is going to be landscaping on the north side of that drive as well. And that one-way drive will only be accessible from West 45th Street, and residents would then be able to turn right onto 44th, which is also one way. So there's a kind of a clockwise circulation through the site. The 20-foot buffer does match our form-based code, which is not applicable here, but the idea that there is a buffer to help prevent some of those privacy issues that comments refer to.
Did the developer, was there a proposed version of this where I guess the step down looks like townhouses or that lower density model kind of wrapped adjacent to the residential fabric that people are kind of asking about? It seems like the crux of the problem is that the larger building kind of protrudes to the center and abuts to the residential fabric. Was there any thought to just, not making that happen and just keeping that lower density that's on 45th and also adjacent to 44th, also just, wrapping and keeping up an additional buffer, at least with kind of the
I
small
mean, there were
density?
quite a few iterations of the design that included one building. Ultimately, this is the final design that was approved, and we're not necessarily here to rehash the design. We're here to talk about the zoning of the density on the two families. I will say that if there is a drop in the building height, it likely, and then this is just my conjecture, would actually take away parking because parking is.
I'm sorry, Director, what was that last part?
Yeah, my conjecture is that if we were to lower that middle building by 1 floor, it would take away parking because parking is on the first floor, so that it would probably retain the number of units and it would actually drop the number of parking spots. Is my conjecture.
I think the design bears weight to zoning because we're talking about the heights here. I mean, the city's moving towards, the identification that most people in the city or majority of people in the city do not own a car. I think there's a lot of comment at this public meeting that like, oh, cars, parking. If you look at the data, a lot of the people within the city do not own a car, right? So this kind of emphasis on you can shake your head, but that's the facts of the facts. But so the push to multimodal transportation is something that the city's acknowledged in regards to density and development. I think to the point that, again, the roadway needs to be studied with the midway. I think, the correlation to crashes, all those kind of is not a cause of it's not related to development or density. Like people moving to the neighborhood is not what's causing the crashes. It's bad driving and bad roadway design that's causing the crashes, right? So I think, while I understand that, again, the density of abutting to the neighborhood is a cause of concern, I'd imagine that, again, it was studied by landmarks, but both also the developer, that the increased height kind of makes sense there. The 20-foot setback with landscaping should provide somewhat of a buffer to folks peeking into lawns or backyards. I would advocate that maybe the developer study, again, potentially carrying that 34 building height all the way back there to increase that buffer again. Again, not really so concerned about the reduction in parking that would impose, but I think it would, again, step the development back to the folks that are in that neighborhood and probably provide some level of solace to the folks that are here right now. But I just want to, all the things that in regards to crash and pedestrian safety, those are things that are being studied alongside the roadway design, but it's not something that is caused by increased density, right?
If I may just respond procedurally, and I'll try to speak up. Sorry, getting over an illness. I just want to mention procedurally that the site plan proposed today will be attached with the legislation for which this is the zoning piece. So if there are any changes by the developer, design, height, anything like that, then it would have to go through an additional process legislatively to make that change. So just wanted to kind of put that on your radar as you're making your decision today, that whatever is submitted is what is going to be built if the legislation passes.
And are there any so the Councilman McCormick is in favor of this?
Yes, he has expressed his support. Slife, I don't know, Councilman Slife, I don't know if you have anything on there too. I don't know if the councilman is on and wants to make any comments.
So, Madam Chair, to be clear, we're voting on the zoning.
Zoning only. Yes, this is a zoning matter. This is, and for clarification, it's a consolidation and creating of one zoning classification for the parcel.
And if I could, I think Xavier reiterated some of our city goals, and this is for your consideration as you think about the site plan. This is on a high frequency transit corridor, and it's within that quarter-mile radius. So higher density is It's not in the middle of the neighborhood, it's right on the corridor. I think for us, as we think about sustainability and increasing housing supply, this is one way to do that. There have been studies that show that as you increase housing supply, specifically in Minneapolis, they were able to increase their housing supply by 12%, and rents only grew by 1%. Because of the increase in availability. And this project is meant to be affordable with the scale and size of the units. And I'll say affordable with the lowercase a and sort of that middle range, middle to high range. So that's where this aligns with some of the city goals in terms of zoning. It is your deliberation now about specific site plan and how that fits with.
Madam Chair, to the director, this may be more of a procedural comment. I think, the fact that this went through landmark and was approved, and at least in the current form of this presentation, we don't have the advantage of seeing the full site plan. I'm not sure if that is something that we can think about to aid us in making our decision, because I'm struggling a little bit with factoring in comments that were made today and understanding that what is before us is that landmarks approved, but also there was dialogue, discussion, other visual presentations that we're not able to see at this juncture. And I understand the purview of, what we're making a decision on, but I'm not sure if I feel like I have enough information to make that assessment.
Would it be helpful if Xavier went back to the design slides just to point out exactly where the two family structures would be?
It's more so for me seeing the full site plan. I mean, I know we have the one slide or a couple down, but still, I think there's just some context that's hard to see in that site plan that's here on slide 11. That would be helpful.
So, I will need a motion, from someone.
I do acknowledge the idea
We
that.
can't hear, Madam Chairman.
I do acknowledge the comments that they'd like to bring other public testimony, that they felt like the time to prepare for this meeting was inadequate with the 3 days given. They showed up together today, and I think many of the comments weren't not in favor of the development, but wanting to kind of bring forth more public comment. I'm also kind of weary of, again, the larger structure abutting directly to the residential fabric. I would motion that potentially we table this or postpone this to the next meeting to hear additional public testimony, and potentially, because the site plan would have to be included in the legislation, as we talked about, give the developer a chance to at least put in front of us those options that were kind of shot down in lieu of this option, as Commissioner Anthony suggested.
That's that.
We have a motion and a second.
Can I make Shannon Leonard raise?
Okay, I'll have Shannon raise. I will say, I think what Erica is asking is not, that is a site plan. She's asking for the landscape, if I'm understanding you correctly, that shows more of the treatment.
Well, I guess when we have a design, for design review.
That's a landscape plan. That's
Landscape
more
plan,
detailed.
but also just more outside of,
Got it.
I'm not a planner, so forgive me for my language. This is helpful, and for those that don't have the visual of what this would look like with the, adjacent properties, basically when we see design review presentations, just to give that additional texture and context.
Certainly do that. I want to give Shannon a chance to respond, and then I also have a comment about the public hearing and public comments.
Okay. Shannon?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Shannon Leonard. So I just want to give some process and procedure information here, even though it may be a little bit late. So this project went through landmarks through several renditions, as noted, and The developer and the councilman approached us to do a site plan specific rezoning as well as Ohio City Inc. Around this project and went through a significant public process along landmarks where it arrived at this site plan. And because of the public comments and concerns, it was asked of us to do a site plan specific rezoning, which what that means is we attached the site plan and the elevations as they were approved by landmarks, including the reduction of parking. So the waiving of 349 with the understanding that they are required to participate in the transit demand management program. And that also goes into effect next March 15th. So that would happen once they pull permits anyways. But it is applied to this specific legislation. Any type of site plan changes that happen here, any type of elevation changes that you all may be requesting is that'll end this legislation. They will have to go back to landmarks and get that approved through their process as well. So I just want to make that clear that any site plan changes here, any type of step downs, any elevation changes, this rezoning will come to an end and they will need to go back through the landmarks process. So I just want to make that clear so that it's on the record. And if you have any questions, I'd feel free to answer those.
Okay, this is Shannon Leonard. She works on city staff.
Okay, I didn't.
Thank you.
She's the chief zoning.
She's the chief zoning.
Thank you.
So,
I mean, in terms of, can I make a comment about public comments? I mean, we have many comments over time. And this is a public hearing. So the purpose of the public hearing is that all the comments are brought forward into the public at the time. And so I'm not certain what going back for more public comments is going to do. There was notice sent out 2 weeks ago to all adjacent property owners. And so I just want to respond to the commission member that while I think it makes sense to come back with more design kind of background, I'm not sure that the purpose of extending for more public comments.
excuse me, please do not, I will ask that you're going to leave if you do not hold your comments. The public portion is over.
So that I just want to respond to that.
Yeah.
So this is the public hearing.
Right. So we have a motion and a second. And before I call the roll, I'll ask if there's any other discussion. I do want to say something that's kind of interesting, is that in some ways a gas station, which can cause more adjacent harm in terms of the hours, the lights, the proximity, what happens in and out of a gas station. The irony of this development in the L shape is actually a really good buffer. If you go back to the rendering from a gas station that's probably not going away anytime soon, in this area that is not pedestrian friendly because of the gas station, which has basically an entire curb cut on all four sides. So if you go back to the rendering, I would say that just from how kind of messy cities develop over time, the top left rendering, I think in some ways demonstrates that in a complex situation that I think for children, for neighbors, there's something that if this development came all together, you would say was actually providing a significant buffer between a use that is complex and in a neighborhood of this scale. So that's I'm just making a note of that. So especially if the building did not include the L. So anyway, that is just a general comment. So unless, are there any other discussions?
Before we vote, as a council member, I run into questions from residents often about the notification process. And my understanding is that when we do notifications for a zoning change or for a zoning variance, it is not to everybody living in the entirety of a neighborhood. It is specifically targeted to adjacent property owners and within a certain radius sometimes not even across a main road. So I don't know if it's possible, I'd want to cut off at the pass any idea that the city of Cleveland isn't sending out proper notifications. I think it's worth clarifying how and why the city does the notification process. And I know that that's not something you're at this point going to say like this property, but not that property. There's a cutoff point somewhere, but just at a general level, Director, could you kind of comment on how and why we do our notification process? My understanding is the intent that if you are an immediately adjacent property owner, that this affects your property value, but if you're maybe, you know, north of Franklin, that does not affect your property value in the same manner, your property value, your property rights in the same way.
Now I'm gonna turn it over to Chief Zoning Planner Shannon Leonard, who is the one who produces those notices to explain the process.
Shannon?
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. So for the City of Cleveland City Planning Commission, we are actually not required by law to send out public notices. However, the City Planning Commission for the past 30, 40 years, when we do rezonings, has sent out public notices. I'm pretty liberal, and so we send out notices to every affected property owner, so every parcel that's being changed, as well as all adjacent property owners. And we even go across the street. So in this case, on West 44th Street and West 45th Street, we would hit the adjoining parcels to the north, going back 2 or 3 parcels, and then also across the street, only because, you know, being transparent has been key. And in addition to that, council takes our list and sends those out to for public notice for council meetings as well. We're generally fairly liberal as it relates to the public notice, but there's nothing on record that actually says this is how many parcels you need to go out. This is how many miles you need to go out. However, we send it to all affected property owners, and that's everybody that pretty much touches the project itself.
Okay, any other discussion? I'm gonna call the roll.
Anthony.
Sorry. Yes.
Curry.
No.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slut.
No.
Motion carries. This is postponed. It was a postponement. Which means that the applicant can come back in 2 weeks and can work with the director to get back on the agenda.
Pending notice, we have to send the
Oh,
letters.
yeah, pending notice. But the staff can work with you on that. And thank you all for coming and for your public comment. And we'll move on to the next matter because we are very much behind at this point, but appreciate everybody's participation. The next item is a lot split and consolidation. Permanent parcel number 00236056056 and 055. This is at 1827 and 1831 West 47th Street. And Scott, are you here to speak to this one?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. You go. How'd you do that? Yeah. All right.
Thank you for hearing us today. So we are proposing a lot consolidation and then a lot split for the 2 parcels. Front of you, 1847, 1831 West 47th Street. Next slide. This is a zoomed in version. The 2 existing homes that do exist on the property will be demolished to make way for new homes. This would be turned into 5 different lots, 3 facing West 47 and 2 off of Taylor Court. Next slide. This is just showing the existing context throughout the area. The bottom left-hand corner photo 3 shows one portion of the existing home. The other one right next to it, as well, it would be demolished. So this is the existing topographic and boundary survey that does exist today, showing how the 2 lots are currently configured. Again, those 2 homes will be demolished. Next slide, please. This is showing how we wish to divide the parcels into 5 again. They vary anywhere between 26 feet of frontage to 36 or 38, I believe it was, which is in line with other parcels in the neighborhood. but they vary anywhere between 25 up to 30, to 34, I believe it was. So these, the lot splits that we are proposing does follow similar to what has been done. Next slide, please. This is just this site plan showing how the parcel will be divided and how the home will fit out there. Next slide, please. There is an architectural site plan. Here it is. So this does show how the drives would be configured to allow access to the parcel. All these 5 homes do have garages on the first floor that would be behind the residence. The fronts of the homes that face 47 or Taylor Court would have a front brownstone type stoop up to them to take you into the units. First floor would house a bedroom or a den. Second floor would house the residential living spaces, and the third floor would house an additional 2 bedrooms and bathrooms.
These are fee simple, like just on fee simple, and you will have a agreement on the driveway.
Yes.
Do you have that in place with the?
It is in place currently. We will be submitting that as part of our final submittal to the city.
Is it a homeowners association?
It will be a homeowners.
It will be an HOA, okay. Not an easement, like requiring trash fixing, it's an HOA.
It would be an HOA.
Okay.
And all trash would be placed, each person's responsible for their own trash to be placed inside their garages and then.
I just asked, but when there's
No, that's fine.
it's a requirement for an unusual scenario where the parcels kind of share the driveway or other adjacencies, so just checking.
No, that's fair. You can go to the next slide. It just does show the elevations that are being proposed. So, the brownstone look there, the corner front entry tower element would be brick nature. Brick would go along the bottom, and then there would be some form of a siding material going up, whether that be party siding, vinyl siding of such on the front, sides, and rear.
Okay. Any questions? This is just a lot split and consolidation, not for design. I don't actually know if we will see this one. We won't, will we? That.
This is less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, so less than 5 units. We won't. Back here on the design.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the lot consolidation as and split.
A second.
A motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Ray Scott,
Yes.
McKnight,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, good luck.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. There's one more lot split and consolidation, parcel 007-0579 and 46. This is at 2079 West 38th Street. Catherine Harlow. There you are. Good morning.
So, we brought into the lots that, that house sits on plus one, and then the one behind it, which is very small, and we want to consolidate them.
So it's the little square, like a little rectangle. I can see it. You're just making one long lot. Yep.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Wait an hour for this. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
It was Councilman Side.
I don't know why there's a little lot of.
I don't know, but I'm sorry that you had to come for it.
That's building.
So, can you call the roll?
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight,
Yes.
Sergeant,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item is Far West Design Review, 2023-013, Bank of America New Construction. This is final approval at 3029 West 117th. We saw this in October, and it was granted conceptual approval with some conditions. So whoever is presenting this, I'll have to swear you in, but ask that you can focus on what has changed or the design review as you present it to us. Are they online? Andrew?
Yes, good morning. This is Andrew Whaler.
Okay. Andrew, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
And so we have in front of us 3 conditions that came from design review. about landscaping at the northeast corner, lower the monument sign to 5 feet, study the need for additional signage. So as you present quickly, if you could address those, that would be great.
Of course. As you have seen this, I won't go into all the detail, but we are placing in a new bank facility at the northwest corner of 117th and Western. The buildings that were currently on those parcels have been demolished as of this past week, and this is located in Ward 11. And if we can advance to the surrounding area, here we're adjacent to the advanced auto. So, as I said, these buildings have been demolished. Here's showing the current proposed site plan. And so that was approved through the design review without additional comments. If we go to the next plan, I'm sorry, next one, the landscape. This is the old package. I sent in a new package. If I could share my screen, I can show you the landscape that was applied.
We cannot do that.
Okay.
Maybe you could just talk to the changes.
Of course. So the comment was regarding the northwest corner, which is the upper left and top of the building. There was asked to add some additional landscaping, which it was. We've continued the landscaping along the west elevation, which is the primary elevation, wrapped it around the north side of the building, and continued it about 3/4 of the way down underneath the canopy.
They can just send them to staff later. Okay, keep going, sorry.
So that was the request from the planning design review, was to continue that landscaping. And as I said, we did, and I did have updated drawings that were sent in for this presentation.
Okay, that's fine.
Unfortunately, they did not get in here.
No, it's okay. We can always approve them, and staff can sign off if we're okay with it. So it's okay.
Okay. All right, and if we go to the next slide. Sorry, next slide. One more. The elevations, we were asked to study the signage on the building and found that we could eliminate the rear, which is the east sign. So if you go to the next slide, the east elevation that's shown here is showing a Bank of America sign. In the new iteration of the drawings, that has been removed. So that signage was taken in compliance with the design comment.
Okay.
And then if we move on to the site signage, unless there's any questions regarding the, this already previously presented information. Okay, so here there was a monument sign proposed. We had originally proposed it at 6 feet. The design asked that it be lowered to 5 feet, and that was complied with. We are providing a 5-foot tall monument sign. And then, as I said, we updated the signage to remove sign 004 shown on the rear east elevation.
Okay.
And those were the comments that were requested by the design.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions? If we choose to approve this, if someone could add to the motion that they would submit the new landscape plan for sign off by the director.
I move to approve with the condition that they submit the revised landscape plan to the director for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Gray Scott,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item is Treehouse Apartments, new construction. This is schematic approval. This is at the corner of Professor and College Avenue. We have Ben and Brandon from Geis. Where are you? I saw them.
Morning, everyone. How are you?
We haven't seen you in a while, so I have to swear you in because it doesn't count from last time. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right. This is seeking schematic design approval. It was approved as presented. You can move pretty quickly through this.
Yeah, I'll try to briefly go through. I know, I apologize, it's a pretty complete submission, so there's a lot of probably slides in this.
Yeah, we don't need them all. We're
Yep.
mostly concerned in the exterior, and you can move fast.
Yep. So the project's located at Professor and College, basically the corner of Professor and College in the heart of Central Tremont. The notch in the site is the existing Tremont Treehouse tap room and beer garden. To the rear, which is staying and maintaining. This project is completely isolated from that partnership and everything. We just dubbed this Treehouse just because of the proximity and everyone's familiar with the location. There are a handful of structures on what will be consolidated sites and parcels that will be demolished. We've worked with Jennifer Kipp with tree preservation on this project as well. I will say that we've taken our time on this pretty significantly, especially for a Geist project, to work with the community and development corporation as we were going through different studies on size and scale. At one time, we had this project as large as 6 to 5 stories, and we really decided to dial it back to a 4-story structure as we'll present it. So we've been really trying to be cognizant and respectful to the neighborhood with the development of it. Some existing context photos, looking at the corner again, the church on the left of the bottom right, bottom left photo, and then obviously Tremont Treehouse in that foreground there as well. Next slide. Here's a ground floor site plan, proposed 0 lot line on Professor and College. Because there's precedent of all the buildings in adjacent close proximity to that. So we're kind of maintaining that streetscape. We're adding 2 street trees on College, flanking the entranceway. One of the comments at design review was a request for the 20-foot wide drive lane to basically be a one-way drive access, which we have no objections. We were kind of planning on that, but we weren't able to work through that detail with the residents yet. We are slated to go to the Block Club on Monday night to present and continue that dialogue and discussion with them. Ground floor, there's a restaurant with a mezzanine, a little over 5,000 square feet, and lobby amenities, and then there's 2 walk-up units that have lofted presence at the street frontage and along the walkway, buffering the site. The far right side is all arborvitae screening of the vacant lot that's at the corner to conceal the parking. And one of the items that people were just confused, it's kind of tuck under parking. The drive lane and the left parking line is actually under the building and covered. The right parking line is actually exposed as surface because of respecting setbacks. Next slide. So overall, the building, 43 units, 4 stories, mixed use with a restaurant, amenities, and then there is a roof terrace that overlooks Professor. We did want to be cognizant of the smaller scale of Professor, and we pulled the building back in a way to allow for that roof terrace. Balconies at all the outside corners of this building are recessed and pocketed. You'll see in the renderings. Next slide. Some street site furnishing amenities, again, not pretty much just trying to enhance the streetscape and the beautifully lined trees along Professor. Next slide. So just some conceptual renderings of the building. Again, you can see the pocketed inset balconies, full depth balconies at all the outside corners, the recessed pullback on the 4th floor of for the roof terrace, engaging the street and Professor. And really this building kind of engulfs and encloses around the beer garden, which will create kind of a nice urban condition with the restaurant in this left foreground. Next slide. Maybe you just want to kind of go through just some of the detailing. We do have some public art that we would like to propose and work with local artists on. That's actually the stair tower. We thought it would be a great opportunity kind of peeking over the roof of the adjacent building that's a little lower scale to kind of create a nice experience. And then here's kind of a more zoomed in. One of the comments that were made at design review, which we're very willing to take a look at, we just didn't explore, was pocketing the entryways along for the restaurant to create a little bit more depth and separation as more of a historic storefront entry would. And then the other comment was potentially where there's that kind of mural live, the idea of maybe pulling that in and creating kind of an outdoor patio area for maybe 2 tabletops or along that to give some relief at the entryway, because just to the right of that is the entrance to the building. I think that's the general gist of the project. Happy to answer any questions, and happy to be here to answer anything.
Okay. I just note this is for schematic approval. Okay.
Just to clarify, Brandon, this is being done completely separate from Treehouse?
Correct.
Can you, I think it's cool. I also could imagine in the future someone like complaining about living above a patio, which to me wouldn't have carried much water. You move there. But can you just kind of speak to your engagement with the Treehouse?
The client development team is on board. I don't know the Nosons property advisor group, and then Dan Spirko with Dalit. I know there's been a significant amount of discussion with Treehouse. At one time, there was Treehouse is going through a small addition off to the side of their building, and we were working cohesively with them to allow for that expansion that they were going to do towards our 0 lot line. So there has been dialogue there. I'll say from obviously being well a part of the 9 with the roof terrace and others, there's some people that enjoy that activity and experience, and there's some that don't, right? That would prefer to be on the back side of the building, and in other areas.
One can argue it's better that the housing comes second.
Yeah,
First, it's in the right order because it's there.
I think Brad has his hand raised to comment on that as a developer on the project.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. If I don't have to. Go ahead.
Okay. I only wonder if we really need to see this again.
Donna.
Oh, Donna, are you on?
Hi, good morning. Yes, everyone. Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Donna Grigonis, the Tremont West Development Corporation. I just wanted to add that the developers have not yet gone to the community, so they're going to design review, or they're going to the Block Club on Monday, and they're going to Tremont West Economic Development meeting on Thursday. But our office has been working with the developer, Dalit, for the past couple of years. So a lot of the issues that we may have seen, we've kind of worked through a lot of them. And so far, it seems like it's been moderately received. I know people are having complaints about parking already, but it is 1-to-1. So I'm not sure to say, but it hasn't gone to the community review yet. So we're still waiting on that. But I would say we have been working with them and appreciate their willingness to work with us and the community. So thank you.
Yes. So I did not realize that it had not gone to local. So I don't think we should do final approval, isn't it? It makes that move. So we should stay. It's schematic. Yeah.
Before there's any motion, there was also a comment I saw pop up from Tara.
I think she was talking about the process for public art.
Okay. I saw the word Tara, and then it's
okay.
Yeah.
Want to make sure we were aware of it.
Okay.
I will motion to approve this for schematic approval as presented.
Second. Motion in 2 seconds. You can call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Splyer.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item is East 93rd Street Apartments, new construction. This is for final approval at East 93rd near Cedar. Kevin Amalia online, I think, or right here. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
That's right.
This was approved on December 15th for schematic design. There were some conditions for the applicant to explore further the parking, sidewalks, landscaping, and site amenities. So I'm sure you'll hit those quickly, and you can go fairly quickly for us.
Okay, well, thanks for hearing me, everyone. So I guess I'll go through the stuff we went over last time. So yeah, site context. Next slide please. Next slide. Next slide, that just points out some of these photos for the existing context. There are 2 existing buildings that we're demolishing. Next slide, please. And show some of the conditions on those existing buildings. Next slide. Next slide. So on this plan, we revised both where the landscaping is going to be and the sidewalk and driveway layout. We've increased the parking a little, rearranged where the dumpster is to get it kind of out of the view of people coming right down that driveway. And there'll be a landscape plan later on in the set we can look at. This is for the overall plan. The buildings themselves haven't changed. It's all with existing context. 90th and 3rd Street. There's still 3-story buildings, 4 units on each floor. So each building gets 12 units for a total of 36. But if possible, we would like on that kind of pale green property to get that in the future so we can round it out as a nice 4-building residential block. Next slide, please. We can go through these. These are just the floor plans we went through last time. Nothing changed there. Next slide. So on the exterior, there were some comments to add a little more detail, select some colors, add some shakes up top, a little more white trim. So I don't know if you can zoom in a little, maybe the bottom left. Yep. So for 2 of the houses, we'd like to have this pale yellow and pale blue. That's kind of a color scheme that's in the neighborhood. We have more of a craftsman style with the trim and the column work on the front. And like before, we have that porch effect on both sides of the building, so it fits into the surrounding neighborhood, the duplexes and houses. And then on the next slide after this one, we have 2 more colors. So each house will have its own color if we end up with 4 of them. Each apartment building, sorry. The next slide. So as we get into civil, I guess scroll down until we get to landscaping. There's a tree preservation plan here as well, but it hasn't really changed since last time. Good, that's it.
Can you address the comment about adding trees to the back island?
Yeah. So if you please zoom in on that plan. We had currently 3 trees along East 90th Street. There's 2 in front of the south house and then 1 in front of the future. And if we do get that future lot above that, then we'll put another tree there. So we'll be adding 4 trees to get that.
Okay.
And those are because there isn't really a wide strip between the road and sidewalk, unlike the other street. We put them between the building and the sidewalk. And then we've also, just throughout the site, we've kind of simplified the landscaping instead of having these long stretches with a whole bunch of sprinkled different plants. Now we have kind of these corners, more island effect of landscaping at the corners and in between the parking, where we have shrubs and then we also have, we try to focus more on evergreen, so it's more visible year round. We change the species out of the landscaping. And then along that note, the privacy screen on each side of the parking is now arborvitae. Before that was shown as a deciduous tree.
Okay.
That's my presentation.
Any questions, comments? Our tree expert, anything you'd like to say? We have a tree expert.
One question, do they have to have landscaping in that 20-foot setback? Is that a requirement?
No.
I was just gonna,
Landscaping on what, Drew?
in the 20-foot setback from the adjacent property line.
Oh, I don't think it's a requirement.
I would say, I appreciate the gesture of simplifying the landscaping, but the landscaping on the back side of the building where there's no entrances, I would just position that to the front and just keep that lawn It just seems like no one's gonna see it or like use it back there.
So, yeah,
the
there's a
corner.
full entrance. So the buildings are symmetrical. Front.
Oh, so they're
They both have porches.
okay. Okay. Well, no, I guess what would be the south side of your site plan? Is there an entrance back there?
No.
Okay, yeah, I was saying those landscaping elements, just pull those to the front where people can actually appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Sure.
Yeah, because no one's gonna to the back of the building where they can't walk in.
Yeah.
Just want to add, this is a great example of middle housing and 12 units per building, right?
Mhm.
And it fits the context of the neighborhood, so I just think it's a great thing to have more middle housing in our neighborhoods.
And usable front porches.
I like this project a lot.
I know, usable front porch. So thank you. Motion? That was a motion. I like this
Motion
project.
to like it a lot and approve.
And I said,
Did you want to add that?
With the landscaping comment.
Yeah.
and I said,
Motion and second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McBride Scott.
yes.
McKnight,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the next two items, which is circle square lots, which are an adjacent MLK signage, I am going to recuse myself. So Isabella is from the first one, who's a client, just because the Cleveland Foundation long ago was involved, not in the project specifically, but in the design competition, which selected the design team. So I feel like it's probably appropriate for me to recuse myself. So Erica is going to chair the meeting for you. You're in good hands. So, and you have a quorum, so you're all good, which is most important.
Just give them a moment. All right. So next up we have Euclid Corridor 2024-003 Circle Square and Library Lofts Site Graphics Wayfinding. This particular project is seeking final approval. Project representatives include Paul and Steve from Volp Urban Design and Midwest Development Partners.
Yes, I'm Steve.
Steve, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And you are Paul?
Yes.
Okay, and I just need to swear both of you in. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, but for this matter, now in hearing under the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So this is a rather large deck, and given the time,
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you. There's lots of people waiting. If I could just ask, is there anyone who's not familiar with this project, who hasn't seen it yet?
It would be good to review. Most members are new.
Oh, okay, I'll do that quickly, but please stop me with any questions so we can get to the signage. So this is a 2 city block project. That's the site that you're seeing up there. We bought through a competitive bid the station that was on the corner of Chester and Stokes. That was combined with another police station, and the new headquarters are down the street by East 55th Street.
Right.
At the time that RFP went out, it was also suggested that if we wanted to, we could approach the library and add that to the project. There were 3 plans that were submitted. We had one wanted to do a hotel, one wanted to do a hotel and an office building. We had a different approach. Our background is mixed use, both urban and suburban. And we looked at what's labeled the East Stokes block, found out it was not part of Rockefeller Park, was not deed restricted. And so we basically proposed a main street on Stokes between Chester and Euclid, and with retail on the ground floor. We're going to show you that plan very quickly. Parking, structured parking, and then a podium. As part of that, and that is just roughly the planning. You can see there are basically 5 buildings on a podium. One of those does not have parking, and that is the library and library lofts. The library, and Mr. Lang, the Chief Operating Officer of the library system, is here, and he'll present his signage. It is important to say that this is a public-private partnership. We have worked closely with the library. and also with the city. Part of what we want to do is turn this into a pedestrian way. Right now, there are merge lanes. Chester forks off, and going back, there's a merge lane onto Stokes. And so really, this is a mini interstate where people are running through here from the Heights to downtown and back at 55 plus miles an hour. So our plan was very inclusive. It included changing the street grid to 90-degree turns, slowing the traffic down, which we have done before without stopping it. There were traffic studies. We started this in 2014, by the way. So we hit the pandemic, we hit the higher interest rates, we hit the inflation for materials, and still have been able to get this off the ground. And the other thing I want to mention is that it was important that to the library and to us that they continuously operate. This is the MLK Junior Library branch. It is highly used. And so we agreed that we would build from the edges in. And we started with the main block, which is the west block. We asked the library where they wanted to be. We pointed to all the land. They decided they wanted to be on a location in Euclid. Chairman Curry is right. There was a grant for national design competition for the library. And the library ended up growing to the point that the apartment building that we had scheduled to go next to it ended up going on top of it. And so that is what we're doing. As of right now, the Artisan, which is a high-rise building on the corner of Chester and Stokes, is completed. The parking ramp, there's the Artisan, thank you very much. The parking ramp, which you can see just to the right of the building, has been built. That connects to Artisan's parking. You can see the lower levels are parking strictly for the Artisan. That ramp will connect to, once we complete the library, and you can see the beginning of the library and the lofts just behind the ramp system. That's about 3 weeks old. We're actually getting ready to finish the top floor. The Artisan is more of a luxury building, highly amenitized, similar to One University Circle. The library lofts is a different building. It is 60% studios with lots of light and 40% one bedrooms. And our hope is that it will appeal to not just the med student, the intern, and the resident, but also the registered nurses, the physical therapists, the people who have a desire to live and work in the area. Part of what we are doing is creating a gathering place. So sidewalks are 20 feet. There is a very in-depth design plan for the exterior of the building, of the whole project. And you can see some examples of what we plan. Reserve Court, which is the court that's which is the road that is in the middle there, where you see all the fancy drawings and stuff. To the west is a shared street. We are, I have an NDA, so I can't talk a lot about this, but the second building, once we take the library down, once the library is moved into their new digs, we are negotiating a joint venture with a national developer for a hotel. It's always been our plan to try to make this as much a 24/7 environment as possible. And it is branded as a neighborhood. We view this as a neighborhood that services the people in University Circle and the surrounding areas. You have tremendous attendance at the library, both from the high school across the street and others. And so this is intended to be something that is not just a place where you go to shop or eat or live, but is also a gathering place to socialize and interact. And so we've spent a lot of time, as you can see, on the streetscape. Not only do we have a minimum of 20-foot sidewalks, we have extended the corners so that the senior citizens that live both in the Fenway and also Judson Manor have an easier time walking across the street. There were a lot of, as we engaged, and we engaged everybody in the planning of this, that all of the stakeholders, all the institutions. And one of the things we heard was that getting across the street, not just with the speed of the cars, but also the length of the walk was a significant problem.
We asked to the chair and the members, is this enough of an orientation before we jump into signage?
We're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So that's the retail. You can flip.
Flipping. My name's Paul Volpe. I've served for 7 years since the initiation of this project as the urban designer. I also coordinate all of the planning and the architecture. We have multiple architects, landscape architects, doing this very, very large, over $400 million development. From the beginning, we said that although the architecture was critical and all of those sorts of things, it was the fine grain stuff, the pedestrian environment that really, really matters. And when you get down to the finest level of grain, and you think about destination visitors, this is University Circle, residents, old residents, new residents, neighborhood residents, people staying in hotel, people going to restaurants and so forth, people have to figure out how to get around. You're looking at a ground floor plan, everything in the orange color is retail space. And it is truly going to be a small scale, about a quarter mile long Main Street, and creating a wayfinding environment that is subtle, attractive, beautifully designed, simply communicated, is what today is about. And think about the population here. When it's fully built out, we'll have probably the highest density new development that Cleveland has seen. We're going to be at about 140 units to the acre, which is a lot of people. And we all support density. I do. But managing it is tremendously important because we have to service an infrastructure. We got to deal with such mundane things, especially mixed use as trash. So how do you get people around safely? How do you maximize the physical environment? And one of the ways you do it is with graphics. I prefer to say graphics rather than signage because it comes in so many physical forms. This is a master plan of all the areas where we felt some sort of identification should occur. It's all different sizes and types and shapes. And the ones you see with circles on them are the ones that we are going to be proceeding with now because we have buildings built. And we are beginning a first phase of the streetscape project, which is to recreate the intersection of Chester Avenue and Stokes. It's going to be very, very different. It's going to be a real intersection. Got rid of those speed lanes and all of that garbage they put in years ago when ODOT ruled the city. And of course, we're going to reshape Reserve Court. We've developed a palette, okay? And it's really important because University Circle has sort of a stylized look to its graphics, which is big signs that are silver, red, and blue. And they're nice and they do their job. Ours, again, is smaller scale and more directed toward the intimate pieces of life. And so we developed and are continually developing logos, graphic forms that are memorable, and they give a sense of this neighborhood and the smaller scale pieces and parts. You can see the Circle Square logo up there, and it calls it out as a neighborhood, not a district. The district is University Circle, and you can see the colors are sort of semi-historic, and I only use it because of the reference to sort of burnished, weathered materials, weathered copper, cortan steel, soft colors that are very different to the University Circle environment, and we think very reminiscent of the feeling that one gets and we want them to get in this neighborhood. We're using them in different ways. We're using them on the inside of the garage signage. A second logo is for Library Lofts building that you'll see used in multiple ways today. We're introducing the colors in signage to get people in and out of parking garages. There is not a single on-street parking space in this 5.5 acres. Everything is in structured parking, and the buildings are up on podiums. And so getting people in and out of garages comfortably, safely, because people tend not to be comfortable with garages. They do still drive cars. But I want to say that in reference to something that was said before, this place is designed with a minimal car count.
If I can just interrupt, there is one area where there is short-term on-street parking, which is on the west side of Stokes.
Yep,
During
that's on public streets.
non-retail area. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
on public streets, no parking
I
lots.
didn't catch that. I have to
Anyway.
listen very carefully.
All right, so we'll go through
Attention
this quickly.
deficit disorder.
This is the building that you saw before that is nearing completion, to be done this summer. And we're gonna spend some time in terms of this as the first building identifier that we needed to deal with, and it relates to the library. Utilizing the building materials and colors in the signage, and you'll see that both on our piece and in the library piece. And it was done in the Artisan. Our buildings are all sort of sophisticated in a sense. They're very modern, but we use colors that weather well and will stand the test of the time, like bronzes and deep grays and patinaed metal and so forth. And we're also bringing, because we are on top of the library, this is a very large mixed use, a library and an apartment building of this scale is a little bit unusual. It's certainly unusual for Cleveland. I know there's another public library that's being done that way. But the long and the short of it is we're bringing our language into the building. We're bringing the language out to the street. And I just, there's not enough time to get it into any details. So I'm just going to show you pictures.
Yeah, I think you can move through.
All right.
Thank you.
This is Reserve Court, the shared street. Getting to that garage is important. You see the P. They get you into the garage. The library is across the street, as is our north entrance. This is the shared street. The yellow circle is where the garage entrance is. And this is the nexus of those arrows show all the entrances in and out of the core of the development. And the shared street Reserve Court is very, very important to the infrastructure of this place working. And as we arrive on that street, I won't get into the design, but there's just a lot of materials here, and it's all designed to create a real rich urban environment. This is the garage, the space under the garage that you can see in this perspective. Those tend to be one of the lonely, darkest places you'll find anywhere, in any garage. And this is the signage getting you in and out, but the important thing is how we treated that. This is what the garage looks like as it's finishing construction. When the dumpster's gone and the street's redone, which it's being redone now, the contract has been let with the city, we have decided, and we've always aspired to doing a mini plaza out of there. This is right where people would come and enter the library. That stair tower on the right, you see a little corner of glass where the woman is standing, takes you into the garages, and it's the place where people will park at the library lofts, for retail, for the hotel, and other types of uses here. So it's very, very important that we have something that is pedestrian unique. So part of this is this little mini plaza. It is under contract. We presented to you earlier. I'm just giving you another preview of it. It's going to be a lovely little space, and it's where people will find wayfinding and be able to orient themselves to Circle Square. And this is what it'll look like as you cross the street from the library. It's a great place for kids to sit, get picked up, and wonderful stuff to happen. From the signage standpoint, we will have sort of stanchion marquees. They're custom designed. They're done with perforated metal in designs. It's all laser cut. And the signage is in the areas that you see in our green color. That's on top of that perforated metal. And it'll say things like this. It's intended to be very simple and effective. We're not trying to make a big statement. We're trying to provide some continuity and get people where they need to go. And this is the other side of that in the garage, which is telling you where to go on your parking levels. On the street, we felt that having markers for pedestrians that will arrive here, particularly by public transit or walking from the schools. We've got a number of schools here, School of the Arts, John Hay, so forth, the college campus. They're going to walk here. How do you find what you're looking for? that pylon that you see in that large intersection corner outside of a restaurant is one of these. There will be up to 4 of them. They're backlit. They're in sort of the graphic language of Circle Square. And they're going to tell you where to go, and they're going to tell you where you're at. And this is a view of sort of day and night, lit and unlit. When we get to Library Lofts, this is at the intersection of the new little street, which is a private street, that we call Library Drive. That form you see stepped up where the unfortunate CPP pole is. We tried to get it removed, we couldn't. At the end of that is a screen wall, and that screen wall is hiding what you see in the upper left-hand corner, which is new Dominion gas monitors, manifolds, and they handle the whole development. And unfortunately, we had to get those put there. We had no other choice. So we said, you know what, let's take advantage of it. Let's screen it. So we designed a screen similar to the one you saw before. And it's just simple stanchion panels that are freestanding, so air and light can move through them. They sit on top of a base that you can sit on. It's actually designed as a seating base. It's also designed as a pumper, so someone as a bumper, so when fools drive up over the curb at the end of Library Drive, they crash in to a 15-inch high base. So we're trying to protect pedestrians and not have anybody blow into gas manifolds and blow the place up.
Sir, before we proceed, because we still have a very full agenda. This was unanimously approved by design review. Is there anything, just in summary, that would be helpful for the commission today?
That'd be great. We're happy. You could have done that 15 minutes ago. I can't talk any faster and flip through any quicker, so just approve it and we're happy and we'll all go home.
Any staff comments?
Kim Scott is on. Kim, can you hear us?
I can. Nothing different than what was expressed during the meeting yesterday. I think this is very well received, very well thought out. I think that every aspect of it is going to be complementary and germane to the success of the total development. And so, yes, I told them that I thought the Planning Commission would be in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any comments from commissioners or questions?
Madam Chair,
yes,
to the presenter, has there been any consideration taken for those that may have some auditory or visual issues with the signage? Like Braille, where they can touch and feel? Or...
No, nothing
None
on
of the
these.
wayfaring, but
none of
on
the
the
wayfaring.
interior signage, for example, at the units, et cetera, they're required to have Braille, so we do have that there.
And of course, in the elevators and when we consider directories in residential units, that will also have Braille. For example, it has that in the Artisan building. But on stuff like this, it's not something that I've done before and I would know how to address.
I think I'm more concerned with the directional signs, telling people where to go. They will need some direction, particularly those with visual issues and with auditory issues. I've seen some you press the button and they can hear what direction to go in.
Well, let us look into that. We certainly will have that. We're trying to initiate with the city. We're working with the engineering department on the streetscape. We've done the entire project. We've done the schematic design. We've presented it to this body. It's not fully funded yet. We've only funded a portion of it, which is under construction. And we're hoping to initiate, when we're able to go forward with it, we're hoping to initiate signalized crosswalks that are fully audible, that state-of-the-art kind of stuff for pedestrian safety, because there's going to be so many people here, and we're still going to have a certain amount of traffic. But your suggestions are great, and we'll look into it.
Yeah, and if they do go to the library and study, and research, and that's really
Yep.
important.
Yep, okay.
So one small comment on page 32, the smaller stanchion, if that base could be recessed, it's about 10 inches. It's larger than any of the other bases, including like potentially some of the larger monuments on page 32. You can
Can we go to page 32 real quick?
I don't know which
Yeah, so it's
sign
the
is
first
it?
stanchion sign that you showed.
That one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if that base could be recessed into the pavement.
No, that one's also raised for the same purpose as
Okay.
a crash barrier.
Crash barrier, okay.
It's right at the turn.
Okay.
It's
As you
right
enter
at
the
the
garage,
turn.
between the garage and the
Yeah.
elevator and stair down.
We didn't want people sitting there like the other one.
Okay.
So instead of being, it's 12 inches high on top of a 6-inch high curb. But it, with the elevator there and people coming out and people coming in on a tight curve into the garage, somebody may not be looking.
Gotcha.
And we wanted to hit that crash barrier.
Sounds good.
There are no further comments or questions. Can we get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, a motion to approve the signage package presented as is.
Second?
Second.
Michael, you got those?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Can we call the roll?
Anthony.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Slight. Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I just say that we coordinated with the library. You're going to hear from next. We fully support their plan and what they're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, next up we have, actually, can we get Isabella, because she can be here.
Also not here.
Oh, this one, yeah.
I thought she was all right for the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Next up in the Euclid Corridor Design Review, we have the MLK Library signage. We're seeking final approval. The address is 10601 Euclid Avenue, and the project representatives are John Lang and Chris Dale. Apologies, Chris, if I mispronounced your last name. I see
Chris Deal, yeah.
Deal, thank you so much. So we have Chris online and John. Okay.
Madam Chair, may I suggest that we go quickly through the presentation and mostly address the design review comments on this side as well.
So it was unanimously approved with conditions. So the condition from design review was study lighting for vertical column at entry facing Euclid for a better solution. I'll turn it over to you, gentlemen.
I'll be very brief, and Chris is going to lead the presentation from the WebEx, but I just wanted to say on behalf of the library, this is the flag, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. branch of Cleveland Public Library is the flagship project in our ongoing 10-year, $110 million capital construction program. Several of those projects have been to commission. Several more will be coming over the next 5 years, but this is the big one for us. And just to echo Steve's comments regarding our coordination with the developer, we're in full support of their development goals and have worked closely with their design team on both the architecture as well as the signage and graphics package, which Chris is about to talk about.
Awesome. Turn it over to you, Chris.
Great, thank you. I'll be brief.
Apologies. I do need to swear y'all in. Why I'm the fake chair today. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth for this matter, now and hearing under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, thank you both. Sorry about that.
No worries. You heard from Steve and Midwest Development Partners about the larger development. This is the lower 2 floors below the library lofts project. This view is from Euclid Avenue, looking at the MLK branch's new southeast entry. We're looking at 4 components. You're seeing the freestanding monument sign on the left. It's 9 feet tall, internally illuminated, letters and custom MLK logo at the top that's also internally illuminated. Above the entry is a mesh lantern. There are lights illuminating that inside as well. And you're seeing the Martin Luther King Jr. Lettering on one side, Cleveland Public Library signage on the opposite side. The library text mounted on the exposed concrete column and Cleveland Public Library's new branding. You're seeing a circular medallion at the patron level that's kind of consistent with how they express their branding to the community. Go to the next slide. Again, backside of the column from the east edge of the site, you're seeing a similar medallion on the concrete column and the Cleveland Public Library text. Next slide. This is looking in towards in through the entry. You're seeing a revolving door. Through the glass, you can see a custom design MLK logo that's used throughout the interior of the library, and the Table of Brotherhood quote by Dr. King that kind of signifies the design concept from the competition. Next slide. This is just kind of indicating that, you know, the lantern and the signage is internally illuminated, so you're seeing kind of what that looks like at night. Next slide. And then from the northeast, you heard a lot about the garage development. Library patrons and staff will be parking in that garage by Midwest Development Partners. This is the northeast entry. A similar medallion with Cleveland Public Library's branding is seen on the right-hand side here. Next slide, please. And then again, through the glass, our MLK graphics. It's kind of a wallpaper that you're looking into a meeting room and kind of gallery space at the second floor. Next slide, please. And then from the parking garage, that crosswalk plaza that you heard about, this is looking from Reserve Court towards the northeast entry, similar freestanding monument sign, 7 feet tall and internally illuminated, similar to the Euclid Avenue side.
Chris, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to see, because I think this is the part that's design review is asking about studying the vertical column. Was it this particular column?
It was a southeast column.
Oh, the southeast column. Okay, finish up and we'll come back to that one then. My apologies.
That's it. Let's go there.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to understand what the conversation was around, you know, the lighting and a better solution. If you can illuminate that for us, unintended.
Right. You know, this presentation was done in conjunction with Naznani and Schwartz. Maybe what's not doing it justice is we have in-ground site lighting the whole way around the building that illuminates the facade. We do have an in-ground light on the short side of the southeast column that you're seeing on the right-hand side of the page, and downlights within the soffit. This was focusing on the signage itself, but that the comment from the design review was in reference to lighting, studying the lighting at this column that you're seeing here.
You're talking about the one that says library in the big font. So you're saying there's recessed uplighting at the base?
At the base, it's on the short side right now. So that was, we were asked to study that.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. I thought we were talking about the orange one.
Yeah, no worries.
On the northeast rendering, is that wall a public art location?
You're looking
The
northeast rendering. You're looking into the library space. It's a meeting room. We do view that as an opportunity for some of the kind of the social justice elements, exactly, and potential gallery space. But it's a meeting room for Cleveland Public Library.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chris, was there anything else you wanted to share before we open up for comments or questions?
No, I can stop there.
Okay, wonderful. From the commission, any comments or questions for Chris or John?
No question, Madam Chair, but this is beautiful signage. I just want to commend the design work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director, do we have anyone on staff here for any comments?
She's in the hallway, but I think she's speaking with the applicant.
Okay.
There's-
I'm actually back at my desk now. I'm sorry. No other comment other than what was just consistent with the comments that were made by the committee as far as that column that's facing Euclid Avenue. Right now, on a site plan, they did show this ground fixed lighting, but it's really going to illuminate the side of this library column facade, if you will. So it's not something that's going to directly illuminate that signage that says library with the placard. So that's the only comment. I think that I agree with that it's something that should stand out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
So I will move approval incorporating the comment from design review to study lighting for the vertical column.
And I second.
Michael, do you have what you need? Yeah, take your time.
If I may, what a beautiful library for such a significant library.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You call the roll, please? Sorry.
Anthony.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes. Motion carries. While we reconvene, we will move towards loading up the main board.
And for the record, Isabel McKnight is recusing herself, and Chair Curry is returning.
Erica just went to the restroom. We will wait for her.
Fairly quick.
Okay. So we are gonna do the mandatory referrals. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 items. How about before she comes back, we vote on the administrative approvals? There's only one on page 13. So if you could see the administrative approval. We'll just get that one out of the way while Erica's in the bathroom. Motion for that?
I move for administrative approval on ordinance number 234-2024.
I will second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Yeah. Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. The first mandatory referral is ordinance 108-2024. This is authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to execute a deed of easement. This is in the Flats East Bank development area. So welcome, Cassie.
Good morning, Cassie Slinsky, Division of Real Estate in MoCap. So this request is for a permanent, non-exclusive easement to adjacent property owners for roadway access on city property. The property is located just off Main Avenue, and it provides the main roadway access to the Flats development area near Front Avenue and Old River Road. If you can go to the next slide. A while back, this area had to be constructed to accommodate appropriate drainage and stormwater management that was required through EPA in the sewer district. And with that type of paving system that had to be put in place to maintain this area, the city was unable to dedicate that roadway. But however, since 2015, when this happened, there's been a series of title issues when properties go to transfer to new ownership. Some of these properties are technically landlocked. So the city placing this permanent easement would allow those property owners to have access to our roadway. And it'll ease as properties continue to transfer in that area and keep them from being landlocked.
I will move approval. Seems straightforward.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Anthony.
Abstain.
Curry.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Motion carried. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Very important. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Ordinance number 29204. Rick, you're here for this one. This is accepting.
Next two.
Or the next two. Okay, accepting the offer of a dedication of the right-of-way of public improvements on Moltke Court.
Yes. Can we, sorry. Let's go to the next one, please. Moltke Court, it's a trio apartment buildings that you see over there, about 171 apartments. The road is actually an extension of MLK Court from the east to the west. Let's go to the next one, please. Yeah, this is just a couple of slides showing real quickly of the development. That's actually, when you go back, this should be a fall of 20. Go to the next one. It doesn't matter, it just shows the whole road. Somehow it didn't work. We had 4 slides, we're trying to be technically advanced, it didn't quite work. So you see multi-court and how it was actually extended over there to West 25th Street. Go to the next slide, please. So what we're asking is we move to get legislative approval for the actual dedication of that 40-foot by 230-foot long dedicated right-of-way, and also the acceptance of the roadway, which then allows the city maintenance to begin on that roadway. So now a city street, once it is then accepted. So we're asking that with authorization to move this forward.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Swett.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item is authorizing the director of the mayor's office of capital projects to issue a permit to Sherwin Williams to encroach on the public right-of-way of West 3rd Street, Frankfurt Avenue, Public Square West Roadway, Superior Avenue, West St. Clair Avenue, and West 6th Street by installing, using, and maintaining various objects. Those
Yes.
would be bollards, correct? No, I'm just kidding.
Number of different objects,
Item.
actually. We have a slew of them. We'll have Andrew Albers, the landscape architect from OJB, who presenting on Sherwin Williams' behalf. Also, Deborah Young of Sherwin Williams is on the line too.
Okay.
And, to the chair, because we're familiar with the overall project, I think we can jump right to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go right to the,
I think if you could advance to the next slide and then to the next slide. Oh, thank you for your time today. The highlighted areas on the site plan showing the 3 blocks show the proposed encroachments. I'll start at area 1, which is on West 6th Street, and we'll kind of go clockwise around. So at area 1, and then if we go to look at area 8, those 2 locations are proposing monument signs with foundations. Area 6, which is along West 3rd Street, has a combination of elements, including security bollards at the building face, a snow melt system, which we'll show in a separate diagram, pedestrian lights. There are outlets in the landscape areas adjacent to trees. There's security walls, irrigation, and a utility vault. If we head over to Frankfurt, area 10, there are security bollards in line with the trees there and irrigation. Area 11, which wraps around the pavilion block there to the east and south, there are bollards and irrigation in that zone. And area 9, which is on West 3rd at the pavilion block, there are bollards, there's snow melt system, irrigation, and outlets at some of the trees. And then area 5, which is on Superior, just south of the office tower, there are bollards, pedestrian lights, irrigation, a utility vault, and some outlets. And then areas 2, 3, and 4, which are also on West Superior, shown on this diagram, will have site amenities, which will go through a separate process. And I don't believe that there are any encroachments in that area. And so if we go to the next slide, this diagram is showing the irrigation systems that would be in the right-of-way that we negotiated with the urban forestry. The red areas are irrigation that are intended to be used for the establishment of new street trees. Those areas will be gate valved at the property line with the intent that they could be abandoned in place. The areas that are the areas in blue, specifically in front of the office tower on West 3rd, that irrigation is intended to be long-term and permanent in the right-of-way. And then the areas that are green are snow melt systems that will be in the sidewalk. If we go to the next diagram, this is just a diagram showing the approved tree plan that we worked with urban forestry on, showing the various species of trees that will be planted. And then the next diagram are just showing some visualizations of some of the objects that we presented. I think that's it.
Okay, so this is just authorizing the ability to install those right away.
Yes.
Okay. Commission members?
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Second. Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Project moving well.
Thank you.
We did the administrative approvals. There's one public art element before we do the Lee Harvard Master Plan. This is Destination Cleveland, murals across the city at 13046 Lorraine Avenue. Alex, we've seen a lot of you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I certainly do.
And you can go pretty quickly.
I sure can. So this is the 5th in our 6th of the Murals Across the City project. This is proposed to be located on the west facade of Der Braumeister at 131st and Lorraine. Go ahead.
Is this your ward?
You can.
This is not, but I might have to recuse myself because I go to Durban myself.
No, actually, this makes you more equipped.
I think
to
I
answer.
can. I know the location.
More equipped, yes.
You can see the west facade wall there, adjacent to 131st Street. Go ahead. Some more context views, front of the restaurant looking down Lorraine Avenue. Go ahead. And some more context. Go ahead. This is the proposed location. Mural is slated to be 24 feet wide by 11 feet tall, which will bring it right to the bottom of that sign band. There are 12 feet clear on either side. We originally looked at pushing this all the way up to the building line, but right on that right-hand side where you see the 11-foot label, there's a offset in the brick. It's, I don't know, probably 2 inches deep. That storefront used to be open. Restaurant owner shared with me that they have future plans to reopen that bay, and so we're staying away from that. So second best choice is to center this on the 24 feet of the building, which is actually 48 feet deep. 48 feet deep. Go ahead. The wall will be primed again with all these direct application of paint, and then we'll put the anti-graffiti coating on it. Go ahead. This is the design. It's by Ian Burleson, who's a local artist. This will be his first large-scale mural, I believe, but he's done other large-scale work before. This design is his design concept was made in a 1x2 format. I don't know if we got the final render in here, but if you go ahead, yeah, this is squished a little bit. So he has resized it. So the script Cleveland is in there. It's currently hidden behind the sign band, but it'll be, if you flip back, all that you see in this design will be represented there. Just imagine it reoriented slightly. And I believe that is all we've got.
I like it.
But can you explain
Latara?
the land of redefining city limits?
Yes, so
What does
that's
that mean? I kind of know, but I'm just curious.
I don't think that I could get to the very bottom of the philosophy of that for you, but it is a tagline that our marketing department uses in a lot of our out-of-home advertising, in a lot of our promotional materials. So if you were to see Destination Cleveland stuff in another city, that's one of the taglines that you might see.
I learned something interesting from Nathan Lull, who's the planner, that this actually was the city limit at one point.
The court limit.
Oh, well, that makes sense. But you use this out of market? You say the land of redefining city limits?
Yeah, this is one of the taglines that's in our branding materials and that we use to describe Cleveland.
Maybe it's supposed to make you think. What do you think?
I love it. I love the color scheme for the building, the colors that have been added with the renovation. Far West Designer, we did unanimously approve it on the 21st. Storefront renovation program saw it, they were in support. I haven't heard from the councilman, but everyone, else that has seen this has expressed support.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to approve as presented.
And I'll second.
Motion and a second, call the roll.
Anthony,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
McKnight, sorry. Sargent,
Yes.
Wyatt. Yes.
Motion carried. Do you want to go ahead and get Isabella back in for the next one? Is Isabella can come back in. So last on the agenda, big item, very exciting, is going to be a presentation of the Lee Harvard Community Master Plan, which is seeking final approval. I think we will have a combination of presenters, I think some comment residents, others can give comment. Do we have councilman?
He is supposed to be joining and he'll comment after the presentation.
Okay.
If I may, actually, wanted to hand things over to our staff planner, Kenya Gray, who will give an intro and introduce the team, including Ms. Goldstein from Harvard Community Services Center. I do want to note for the record that Drew Sargent was on the steering committee, so he will stay, but likely vote abstain. So,
Okay.
comment.
So our sense is that the councilman will be here, but he would like to go last.
That is the order that we have.
Okay.
We have staff and intro by Ms.
Okay.
Goldstein, the
That's fine.
presentation then.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Kenya Gray. I'm the Southeast Side City Planner, and I'm here to introduce the Lee Harvard Master Plan. So this plan was led by APD Consultant Company, and so over the past 6 months, in conjunction with Harvard Community Service Center and the City of Cleveland, we've done a lot of extensive research. We've also engaged the community, and we've come together for a cohesive plan that will benefit the whole Southeast Side of Cleveland. With emphasis on corridor improvements and more diverse housing options at 3 catalytic sites that I handed out to you guys, we plan to revitalize the area while retaining current residents and attracting newer and younger generations to come live in the community. The SARET meetings that we held at Harvard Community Service Center helped to guide the suggestions made by APD and the developments within the plan. And I'm going to introduce Mr. Lane Goldston and Rich Gaudreau from Harvard Community Service Center to speak next.
Get one more chair.
Good morning. Yes, absolutely. Just grab one. Yes. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you for having us today. My name is Elaine Goldston. I'm the CEO and president of the Harvard Community Services Development Corporation. Glad to be here this morning to talk about this wonderful initiative. This is Rich Gaudreau, who is our development director. And I don't know what happened to my consultant locally, but he's sitting in the back, Tom Stransky. Wait a minute. I teased him. I told him, I said, I can tell you don't go to church much, because at church you're asked to come up, and then you come up, come up and then you be asked to sit down. So he's learned something else this morning. I'd like to say on behalf of our partners, the City of Cleveland, Community Development and City Planning Departments, Councilman Jones, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, and Liz Cleveland, I am honored to share with the members of the Planning Commission the Lee Harvard Community Plan. We are extremely proud of this work. Our priority for the plan was community engagement, to give residents, businesses, and youth a voice in the new vision for the community. We had over 100 people at every community meeting that we held. Harvard Community Services Center will use this plan to work with the city to guide future investments in the community, including the former JFK school site, the Grace Mount site, and the roadway and streetscape design of Lee Road. In addition, the community master plan and the city's investment into the southeast side of Cleveland will allow Harvard Community Services Center to lead the community in implementing their vision. And now I would like to introduce ADP Urban Planning, who are our consultants we work with on the plan. They are a wonderful African-American owned firm out of Atlanta, Georgia. They have an extensive track record of working in African-American neighborhoods similar to Lee Harvard. APD impressed at the selection committee with their experience in community engagement and successful implementation strategies that actually get the work done. I will now let them introduce themselves.
Should be online.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Ms. Goldstein. That was very wonderful introduction. My name is Carter Coleman. I am a real estate development associate with APD Urban Planning. I am here with Mr. Jesse Wiles, our CEO, and Ms. Deborah Jensen, our senior planning architect. And we were part of the project management team along with Harvard Community Service Center, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, the City Council, and List Cleveland that shepherd this planning process through the Lee Harvard community. And we just wanted to take some time today and kind of go over the plan with you and the process and the outcomes and answer any questions that you all may have. So with that, I think we can get started. Next slide, please. So as we mentioned, this was a wholehearted effort between all the partners involved. And we want to thank everyone for it. The impetus for the Lee Harvard plan was really the ongoing work that the Lee Road corridor has seen the city of Cleveland want to plan the improvements to align with those that were completed in Shaker Heights recently. And the real reason was as the investments were lining up and development would be earmarked for the area, the partners wanted to make sure that there was a guide in place for future development for the Lee Harvard neighborhood as roadway improvements and development continued along this corridor. We wanted to require a public plan that allowed public input to guide that investment and to make sure that the community and its health and wealth was brought to the forefront of mind to make sure that the city was aware of what the community's desire was for growth going forward. Next slide. And this is the study boundary. As we kind of discussed, the corridor really was focused on Lee Road, Harvard Avenue, and Miles, although the recommendations that were delivered at the end of the plan take into account the entire city, the entire neighborhood. These were the focuses for our catalytic land use and building typologies and economic strategies for the community. Next slide. Some of the neighborhood results, as in any urban plan that we conduct, we start with looking at the existing conditions, understanding the community and the neighborhood and the demographics that reside there. You can go to the next slide. What we did do for this is we looked at not just the corridor, but the census blocks that were within a half-mile boundary. And the reason we did that is because we want to know those who would frequent any retail or businesses along those corridors, and also kind of the demographic that would be most impacted by development and any economic or housing related recommendations that came out of the plan. So this is a look at the 20 census blocks that are within the half-mile boundary of the Lee Harvard neighborhood plan corridor study. Next slide. One of the things we found out is within that area, the population is around 40,000 residents in relation to the city of Cleveland, which is a little over 375,000 or close to it. The median age range is higher than the city of Cleveland as a whole. We know there's a significant senior population in the area. But outside of that, a lot of the other demographics and data points that we looked at were closely similar. What we will notice is that the home ownership rate, which is very much touted by the community and people are aware of, is much higher or higher than the city of Cleveland as a whole. You can go to the next slide. Incomes as well. The median income was very close to what you would see as for the city of Cleveland for Lee Harvard. What is a little bit of difference is the rent burden that you would see for residents within the community was slightly higher than that for the city of Cleveland as a whole, especially when you think of severely rent burden residents were paying more than 50% of the rent. That was definitely higher than the city of Cleveland as a whole. And so some of our recommendations will speak to these disparities that we can help change those. But the average rent itself was very close to what you would see in other parts of Cleveland. Next slide. Some takeaways that we got from our demographic study, the generational transition that we see, we have a slightly older population, but there is still a significant amount of those younger than 18. So there's opportunities to develop recommendations to retain that generation and kind of find ways to make people want to stay in the community or come back to invest into the community. One of those things would be finding ways to build different typologies. This is a significantly single family majority neighborhood. So finding ways to introduce new housing typologies, various densities at various income levels will be a way to attract new and keep residents who either want to age in place or new residents that want to find different ways into the housing within the Lee Harbor community. That's the next slide. So community engagement, as you've heard, has already been a significant part of our planning process, and it's something that we care deeply about to make sure that it is held from the beginning to the end of any planning process. So you can go to the next slide. So any part of our planning will always include a significant amount of community engagement. For the Lee Harbor, we had up to 5 public planning meetings. One thing that we will say that was very, very promising is, as Ms. Goldstein said, every meeting that we had over 100 attendees, and actually every meeting that we had, the attendance increased. So the second meeting had more attendees than the first meeting, and the third meeting had more attendees than all previous public meetings. We had a youth focused meeting. We met with youth at Lee Road Baptist Church to get their input on the community and what they would like to see. We had 8 project management team meetings, and we had a series of stakeholders. Those were either individual or one-on-one, where we talked to community leadership, community partners, other organizations that were invested or significantly interested in the Lee Harbor community to understand what their possible hurdles are for continuing investing or finding out where the opportunities are, what they're looking for. But it was a great process, and it lasted from August until this past January. So our steering committee goals, who kind of helped us guide, the steering committee was our sounding board. So as we moved throughout the process, we wanted to make sure what we were hearing from our public meetings were correct, if we were interpreting the issues and the opportunities that people were bringing to us. And one of the things, they want to increase the pedestrian safety and walkability, improving streetscapes, creating a green district or green corridor, attracting a new generation of families to the community, creating a plan that's actually implementable, and then preserving the community's identity as the next generation continues to grow and evolve within the community. And they want to establish a clear vision for Lee Harbor so it can be a guide for those who are living there and investing, so we could know what to do for the next steps. Next one. And these are just some photos from the community engagement process from a number of meetings that we've had. Like I said, each meeting was very well attended, and we got a lot of good information. People are very invested and excited for this process and what's to come next. Next slide. So some of the results, our series of public meetings kind of went in a format. We had a design charrette the first time. So there was a 3 days in a row where we met with the community. There was a educational day where we kind of went through the different portions of community development, and we were lucky to have a lot of city partners and city organizations come out and explain what they do and what resources are available. And then we had the community go to different stations to give their input on various topics and subjects. So what came out of there was a vision for the Lee Harbor plan, as you see, and also guiding principles. These were really the ones that we want to make sure that we hit home on throughout the process. So enhancing the walkability and safety, creating a vibrant corridor, community engagement, inclusivity, make sure that we're transparent and listening to all parties, preservation, sustainability, and attractiveness and growth. Go to the next slide. Some of the transportations concerns we heard were things that was really the impetus, again, for starting this. The Lee Road corridor and Harbor intersection is one of the most dangerous in the city. I believe it's second for crash and vehicular incidents. 141st and 142nd, there are a lot of crashes on Miles. They want to improve the traffic flow and resurface streets and sidewalks and create better transit waiting environments for multimodal purposes. Go to the next one. As far as the commercial business concerns, there was really a big concern for attracting new businesses. People wanted to have new shops and retails that they could go to. They wanted to promote small businesses for those who are residents of the Lee Harbor, for people who want to start new businesses. Encourage support Black-owned businesses from the area, and then establish a volunteer program to support those local businesses and can promote community engagement to interact with those businesses, so you know who's being opened and making sure that the community is aware of them. Housing concerns, of course, we hear a lot of these in different communities. Property tax increases, owner and rental property deferred maintenance, whether it's an owner who is on a fixed or low income and can't afford to make those quality of life enhancements, the lack of will transfers to make sure generational wealth is transferred to their heirs, diversity of housing types for different incomes, and back taxes, again, for those who may be retired or fixed incomes. Next slide, please. So the catalytic sites, because it's such a single family dominant neighborhood, there aren't a lot of opportunities to introduce new housing or even new retail options outside of current either vacant or blighted buildings. But we found 3 sites and we worked with the community to get their input on the site. So the former Grace Mount Elementary School site, the former JFK High School, and then there's a strip of assemblage of city-owned and land bank-owned properties along Miles Avenue, east of Lee Road. Next slide. So when one of our first meetings, what we did is we wanted to understand what people wanted to see on those corridors. So we had an activity where people gave their preferences for the different corridors: Lee Road, Harvard, Miles, and the Gracemont South site. Harvard, people wanted to see more mixed use, multifamily, and community gathering space. Lee Road was more family entertainment with neighborhood retail and restaurants. Miles, they want to see adaptive reuse of some of the vacant and blighted industrial warehouses and uses along that, and additional retail options as well. Gracemont, because it's off of the corridor, people are really more concerned with green space, single family, and housing diversity options. Next slide. And these are just a few typology pictures, so to give you an idea of the different, and these were actually used in the selection as well when we had people go to the different board in addition to some other options. Next slide. So we also developed guiding principles for the redevelopment of each site, and these are to help the city and its partners and the community in vetting potential developers. So for JFK, they want to develop a town center mixed use site that provided housing, business opportunities, and space for institutional and cultural amenities. They want to retain the real estate development team that will be managed by the city to suit the pre-development tools and attract developers for the Lee Harbor neighborhood. They want to develop a financing strategy that provides community shareholding. This is a way to build generational wealth in the community. It also kind of gets people to champion development, get them more involved in that process, and then make sure that there's still community engagement opportunities whenever a developer is selected and going forward. That's going to be paramount and very important for developing these sites. You can go to the next slide. And so this is the site plan that was chosen by the community. Again, you can see the development preferences that were selected the prior meeting. The second meeting, we came back with options for different layouts, and this is the one that was selected. It was further refined with input from the steering committee, the city of Cleveland, and their partners. This includes mixed use with retail on the ground floor and multifamily up top, fronting onto Harvard and then turning down into the community. Large green space. The blue squares are space for institutional and city uses with additional retail and parking. And then as you transition to the south, it goes from multifamily and lessens the intensity to townhomes to but the single family community that is south of the site. And again, all these need further refinement once the developer and community involvement as you get closer to actual groundbreaking. For the Gracemont, this was one where people were very intentional on how they would like to see it develop. Green space was very, very important. They want to develop housing typologies that provided for various incomes. Single family townhomes and duplexes were introduced. Green space with amenities in a manner that kept it open to the public. They want to make sure that it was accessible to the public and was not just for the development itself. Exploring innovative financial mechanisms. We know home ownership, rental rates are very hard and high now, so making sure that whatever development was selected, there were some incentives to help the park and also home ownership and accessibility for residents. And again, keeping community engagement very, very high on the radar for people involved in this process. And there are more recommendations for principles within the plan. We just wanted to bring some of them to your forefront for this discussion. Next slide. And this is the site plan that was selected by the community. So you have large green space, creating a buffer between the existing single family. You're keeping that same single family development pattern with the homes you see in the yellow. And then you introduce townhomes and duplexes with rear load parking and kind of keeping the pattern scale of the current neighborhood, but adding some different options and accessibility for different incomes. Go to the next slide. The Lee Road streetscape did not have a actual site that we selected. What we did was we wanted to take a typical Lee Road block space and then just introduce a building typology and principles for how Lee Road could be developed as investments and the resurfacing of the road is introduced, but providing comfortable walking spaces and make sure there was ample clear zone to accommodate pedestrian flow and activity from businesses that would abut the sidewalk. Recommending additional pedestrian lighting for safety and aesthetics. Streetscape amenities could provide both rest and gathering places for either trash or transportation waiting areas, and making sure the storefronts interact with that pedestrian space with clear and transparent glasses and different facade fenestrations. What's next? And so in this, you'll see typical kind of a small scale live work. Some of these options will have commercial uses at the bottom, but we'll have residential spaces up top, either 1 or 2 story, kind of very similar to the old Main Street is what we've had in our communities in the past, where you would have a bakery downstairs and the owners lived upstairs above their shop store. So you have some small scale options of that. You have some larger scale with maybe 1 or 2 apartment or condo style living options above larger retail. And then as you turn the corners, you can have more traditional multifamily, small scale mid-rise apartments. And then parking in the rear away from the streetscape and pedestrian zone areas. You can go to the next slide. Now this is Miles. This lot assemblage is directly east of the Family Dollar at the corner of Lee Road and Miles. So this would kind of continue that commercial strip coming down Miles going eastward. So you have retail at the bottom with 1 or 2 stories of residential up top. You have parking for retail to the east, also creating a little bit of a buffer between lots that are not controlled by the city, but there is another city controlled lot further down. So if there were additional parcels that were assembled, then you could continue this pattern. But this was chosen by the community. They feel that it was more appropriate to have some retail on this strip other than just residential because of the current conditions of Miles to the south, which are mostly industrial uses. But as those areas start to redevelop and some of those parcels are redeveloped, then this could possibly change or interact better to make sure that it's more aligned and have a more cohesive feel. Go to the next slide. So implementation recommendations. Although our focus was really on the corridors and housing typology and economic, our recommendations taken to the community as a whole. So for economic development strategies, you think that we could streamline opportunities to access funding for new businesses to operate in Lee Harbor to incentivize new businesses coming to the area. Tracking the inventory of available commercial spaces. Some of the partners that we spoke to when we spoke about, bringing some either retail or small light industrial to the area. People are looking for spaces that are ready and not having to do as much renovation. So making sure you're tracking what's available when it comes online, letting others know that it's available and kind of having a system for that could kind of keep that moving. Increasing enforcement of code enforcement along Miles. We know there was a number of code violations that were recorded a while ago, and the city is moving forward on those, but to make sure that those owners are held accountable for the condition and the way it's impacting the community. and then utilizing existing funds to assist business owners with exterior renovations. The current businesses that are in the Lee Harvard area and have been working and supporting the community, making sure there are funds available to help them create more habitable spaces and creating a better feel for the community. We go to the next slide. Oh, and also making sure that we work with a marketing and branding idea. We identified a number of areas where gateway signage, street banners, all to bring a feel and a distinct vibe of Lee Harvard. It also goes a long way to attracting new businesses and residents to the area. Streetscape designs, we were working with the city's transportation, improving infrastructure along Lee Road, safety for all users, improving those transit waiting environments again, creating a green district with public planters, seating options, art all along Lee Harvard, fronting the businesses, and coordinating the city of Cleveland on the redesign for Lee Road to provide trees, bioswales, and other infrastructure needs, sidewalks that would give an overall enhancement to the streetscapes. Or housing strategies. We know that there are a number of these initiatives that are either citywide or regional wide, but we also understand that the capacity of those programs may not be enough to address all the issues. So we think that some neighborhood specific programming that also address these issues would be very helpful for the Lee Harvard area. So neighborhood specific homeowner rehabs, down payment assistance program, property tax assistance programs that either assist or freeze taxes in a way that allows people to stay within their homes if they meet certain criteria, developing new housing types to increase access to different incomes, homeowner education, again, wheels, homestead exemptions, making sure that all the tools that are out there are available and people are aware of them. Again, making sure the neighborhood branding identity is something that the community has input on and kind of shepherds themselves, and continue this community engagement after this plan to make sure people are aware of the milestones and when and where they can provide their input on the next steps. Yeah. So a couple of case studies, these aren't just things that we're pulling out. These are actually things, again, that we have implemented or worked along with in other areas or aware of different places. So in Atlanta, we have an anti-displacement tax fund, which we were fortunate enough to be working with a partner that took the recommendation, allowed us to implement it, and we still do it to this day. Residents within the designated area, if they meet certain income and requirements as far as living in the homes for a certain number of years, philanthropic donations are then put toward helping them pay their property taxes. They'll pay the same rate that they were paying once they entered the program. And those funds are then applied to the increases for a certain number of years. For the one that we have here is going on for 20 years. It started in 2017. And so that program is still running strong, and it's actually been expanded to another entity within our city that has started doing the same program. And we're administering that program as well for the Atlanta Bell Line. Wells Fargo's Worth Initiative was done by, we worked with to help Wells Fargo identify a way to incentivize home builders, especially minority and BIPOC home builders, to build 40,000 new homes by 2025. The nonprofits help assist them with down payment assistance, closing costs, and new homeowner education. And then Park Pride, which is here in Atlanta, is a nonprofit that assists the city in developing parks and trails. They've done a number of parks around the city. They create funds to enhance parks, build new parks, have events, and also help communities kind of advocate for what they need and helping them with education and tools to enhance their parks. Next slide. And that's where we are. And so thank you so much. And if we have any questions, we can answer those for you.
You want to go next?
Up to you, Madam
Yes.
Chairwoman. First, I just want to say good morning.
Almost.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to take this opportunity to certainly come before you, Madam Chairwoman, and the board, and ask for your vote of support. Our neighborhood, southeast section of the city of Cleveland, is truly at a crossing point in time. If we continue not to do something, our neighborhood is going to be lost. We see a transitioning happening in our community of the likes that we have not experienced in some time. And I'm very thankful to Elaine Goldstein of the Harvard Community Service Center, Tanya Manise, Neighborhood Progress, her administration and staff. I see Tom Storinsky here, who has worked with us diligently to put together this plan in the selection process of urban planning. I appreciate the work that they have engaged in as it relates to what they've done for us, as well as LISC, who has been engaged. I want to thank the director, Joyce, for her commitment to this process. And I want to thank Truby too, and Mr. Owens. And if I missed some people, please blame it on the head, not the heart. It has been a long process, and we have been working on this for several months, and we've had several different neighborhood meetings on this issue, and probably had in attendance, I would say close to overall 1,500 people. And so the neighborhood has been thoroughly engaged in the process and has had the due process that I think that all communities should have. That means you invite everybody. You leave no one out. And so with this short version, it's not a total community plan, it's partial for the proposition of what has been laid out is curb appeal. How do we view our neighborhoods? We are the furthermost southeast section of the city of Cleveland. We border against Shaker Heights, Garfield, and Maple Heights. We are the opening introduction into the city of Cleveland. And we, as that opening introduction, should send a strong message that this is where you would like to want to come, move, stay, and do business. And in doing so, we will create and bring back what has always traditionally been an attractive neighborhood. So I'm here today to ask for your support to approve the Lee Harvard Community Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we'll ask, is there anybody else who wants to speak or say more?
Just introduce yourself quickly too.
Yeah.
Marvin Owens, Senior Strategist for the Southeast Side. I want to echo Councilman Jones's sentiment, but I also want to expand it. As you all know, the Southeast Side has been a major priority for this mayor and for this administration, and really because it has represented a very, very visible example of disinvestment. And so we're excited about this plan and about the concepts that have come forth from the process, but we're also interested in emphasizing that this is just the beginning. Ward 1, the Harvard community, is an incredibly important part of our city, but it's not the only part of the Southeast Side. It represents the beginning of our process of reinvestment on the Southeast Side, but will also include the Mount Pleasant neighborhoods as well as Union Miles. So if we get this right, we will learn an awful lot about how to approach the next phases of this investment process. And so we're thrilled that the engagement of the neighborhood, the communities, the leadership, folks have been very excited and interested in weighing in. But what we want to do now is move to implementation. These neighborhoods have heard it over and over again that change is coming, that something positive is about to happen. And for decades, they've been waiting and saw nothing. So we're very excited about the fact that we're now moving to the place of implementation, of delivering on the promises that have been made over the decades. So with that said, I want to just say thank you again to the leadership that's here, but I'll also recognize the fact that there's much more work to be done.
I think we'll see if there are any questions from the commission. I have one from maybe all of you or whoever wants to answer. Was really excellent. I think the process was excellent. The ideas are excellent. I think the some of the strategies for thinking about ways that all of us can come together to help to make this possible is really exciting. But my question is, if you were to say today, having gone through this, where are the first few places you will start, or the sort of couple top priorities emerging? Is it too soon to say what those would be?
Well, just say, as part of the kind of implementation of this, CMP already has significant funding through the state, through the middle neighborhood strategy, and we're working with Director Goldstein, Harvard Service Center, to establish kind of like the pilot program for both white boxing and storefront facade renovations. There are potentially grants up to $60,000 with match for individual business owners, and we'll start with Harvard Service Centers, and then also, like Harvard mentioned, roll it out to other Southeast Side neighborhoods. So there's funds in place to do specific work in commercial corridors right now.
So commercial corridors is one. Are there others that you'd say are the kind of top things that you would prioritize?
Well, the John F. Kennedy site, and then Grace Mount site, but the John F. Kennedy site right now is being demolished by the CMSD. It is, RFP is being put out, and Mrs. Hahn could point to more specifics there, as well as it's my understanding that we're going to be putting an RFP out for the Grace Mount site, right? So I give the floor.
Yeah, and I want to share the stage with Trudy from Community Development, who is our asset redevelopment manager for the city. And all of this will go directly into the request for proposals. And I know the administration and the councilperson and everybody here is very eager to get moving on that, to source those requests. And I will also add that, there's a significant amount of ARPA funds that is going into the Southeast Side, middle neighborhoods through CMP, but also white boxing, corridor work, public realm work, as well as some housing development support.
So $5 million has been set aside for catalytic redevelopment. $5 million has been set aside for home repair and home rehab, and $5 million has been set aside for commercial for catalytic redevelopment. So the beginning investments have already been put in place as from the ARPA dollars the city uses. The commercial corridor work has already been launched, and so we're partnering with CMP in administering those funds, and we've already kind of begun to sort of vet potential investments up and down Harvard Avenue, where businesses have already begun to apply for those dollars to start that process.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I was just saying, Trudy.
Just briefly, hi, I'm Trudy Andrewski, Department of Community Development, and it's been such a joy and honor to be part of this process that has really brought out so many community residents. And we wanted to ensure before we put out redevelopment opportunities that are going to be a transparent process, that we could incorporate community voice from the very onset before developers were even selected. So that was a critical goal of ours, to identify this community sanctioned vision and guidelines. So we're working collaboratively with the partners who are here today to develop those redevelopment opportunities in the form of requests for qualifications, to identify development project teams in order to start to pull together specific projects for each of those sites. And then in addition, I wanted to add that for the catalytic sites that you've seen today, primarily JFK and Grace Mount, we also administered economic market analysis to ensure that anything that is shown up front can be absorbed by the market and give us a sense of what type of subsidy they might require. So I think we've done our due diligence in making sure we're structuring opportunities that will be both supported and beneficial to the existing and future residents of the community, and also supported by the market.
Thank you all. That was helpful. Any other questions or comments? And I just note they are seeking for adoption, so final approval, adopt the plan, and it will give us a good guide, because we're going to see all of these projects come here, and so it's really wonderful that it's going to really help us to be able to say when things come that they fit into this, not just the city's resources and what you're going to put in it, but for us, it's really important that communities tell us what the priorities are and how we should really be looking at the many projects we see every few weeks that are coming in the neighborhood. So it's really important for us too. So thank you.
Just one quick comment. Just really appreciate the inclusion of community shareholding and resident investment. And I think that particularly for this portion of our city, I mean, one of the first things that was told to me when I moved to Cleveland was how strong home ownership is in the Southeast side. And so, you know, to think about that generational wealth transfer, I think there's a community engagement, community education component. A lot of Black and Brown people don't understand that transfer of wealth and what that means. And so both from a legislative standpoint and, you know, thinking through some of the different models that you all may be considering, you know, before that comes to fruition, you know, just the education piece I think is really important. And then I know Andrew can speak to this more because I'm 5 years removed from Neighborhood Progress now. But the anti-displacement in Atlanta example that you provided, Mr. Coleman, I was just whispering a little bit to Councilman Slife because back when I was still at CMP, we were looking at the loop legislation out of Philly as an example. And so again, just want to commend you for the recognition of while we want to increase the market, we want to increase development, we don't want to obviously displace the residents in that neighborhood. So thank you all, really great presentation collectively.
Yeah, I would love to, Carter, if it's possible to see that case study of the fund. Just take a look at it. I'd love to understand the scale of it in terms of like, and how it was sort of allocated or overlaid over what parts of the city and how people decided where it could be applied and where it wouldn't. So just from a scale and what philanthropic partners were involved. I don't need to know it today because we don't have much time, but it's a case study I have a lot of interest in. If there is something that can be sent our way, I would really like to take a look at it.
Carter, if you send it to me, I'll
Yes,
get
we
it.
can do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was gonna jump off of Erica's comment because I wanted to make the same comment about property transfer and the importance of that. I actually wrote my note in law school about it in Black communities. And so just seeing that mentioned here, that focus is so important and it's something we really need to worry about, I think, citywide and address. So come on.
Seems like Commission Member Denise McCray Scott is going to make a wonderful motion.
Before you do, may I please make just an administrative note really quick? So we are totally on board with the content, the plan, the process. We just want to make sure there is one point of data on behalf of the planning team. We just want to clarify.
So I have a recommendation. So we recommend that the conditions that they work with the planning staff to add parts to their final plan, including more specific demographic information, adding a few more economic development tools to the implementation strategy, and then a few minor edits to the long-term strategy for the residential sidewalk improvement.
Yeah, there was something about the census tracts and the population count. It was covering the whole southeast side, and we wanted to zoom in a little bit on Lee Harbor to understand what that population is. So that's covered in that.
I think to that end, I remember the census tract seemed to bleed into Garfield, Warrensville, Shaker, which I think is good from a market analysis, but I think it would be good, especially to know like what is the Cleveland data, what is kind of like the Cleveland Plus data, so that we're not getting data skewed from what could be like a higher income area, especially if you go north.
Right, so if all are comfortable with those conditions, want to see if through the chair, if the commission member would be willing to include this.
Absolutely. Okay, you got to repeat that at the end. I would recommend that the presentation be approved as presented today, this wonderful presentation with the conditions outlined by.
Great. Adding additional demographic information, adding a few economic development tools to the implementation strategy, and minor edits to long-term strategies for residential sidewalk improvements.
Those.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
The only other thing I'll add before we vote is that I know you've been working on this since August, so it feels like a long time. But in the planning world, it's also extraordinary how quickly and how much engagement you did in just a quarter. It's actually astonishing. So congratulations on that, because that kind of engagement in that short amount of time is not easy. So it feels long, but it's not.
It does feel long.
But it's not. So call the roll.
Yes.
Kirby,
Yes.
Ray Scott,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sargent,
Abstain.
Slack. Yes.
And Carter, we're waiting for you to open an office in Cleveland. Seems
We're
like there'll
working
be
on
a
it.
lot of work on the southeast side.
I know.
There's more to do. All right,
Thank
meeting is adjourned. Oh, wait, we have a couple comments from the director.
Yeah, this is
Wait,
very
But, go ahead.
Very
But
quick.
we're good here.
We're good.
We're good here.
Yeah.
Yes, so you may leave the table if you'd like, but I just have a few comments for director's report. The only thing that I'd like to mention is next meeting is March 15th, 2024. We will have a very full agenda, so we'll be very careful about how many design review cases we do add. There are significant policies that we want to go through with you. So the first being form-based code. Form-based code is.
Oh my God. How are we gonna do that? Like from agenda point of view, we'll have to like be very efficient.
Well, I'm gonna really be careful about how many agenda items we
Okay.
add. We have two. We'll express that the agenda is full to the planners.
Okay.
And there will only be one or two significant design review cases. And then the other thing is that the transportation demand management program is going to become in effect from our legislation March 15th. So Matt Moss will be giving you an overview of that program and the documents associated with it. So, really.
Okay, thank you. So,
Thank you.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
That was, I have to show you something that was like.